Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris. We are going to talk about the latest comic book news, of which there was a stunning amount this week. We've got stuff from the Absolute Universe. We've got all sorts of comics that are returning. We've got Marvel stuff from the 90s returning. We've got new debuts in the Energon universe. We've got creators sniping at each other. We've got some bad fan interactions at conventions. We have some huge comics to discuss this week. A new Absolute comic is always, there's something interesting to be said about that. The debut of Mask, a new volume of Criminal by Brubaker and Phillips. So those are just a few of the things we'll be discussing today. At the very end of the show, we'll have sort of a cool down where I'm just going to do some artwork, do some drawing and stuff, and just chat with you about media and behind the scenes stuff with comic tropes. It's going to be a really fun show. I can promise that. I can absolutely promise that. What else? Yes, I did get my New York Comic-Con tickets. I got tickets for myself to go on Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, the plan is I would be going with Chrissy, as well as one of my best friends, Evan, from college. He lives in New York, and it's been an annual thing for us to sort of go like with his family as well, like his wife and kid. And hey, look at all these awesome faces. Hello, Mike. Thank you for the compliment. My name is Kingdom on the Brayfogle episode. Appreciate that. We're going to have a really good time tonight, and I might even be jazzing myself up with a little caffeine. Kohiyo nomimashou. Kohiyo nomimashou. Oishii desu! All right, tell you what. There's so much show, we can't dawdle. We can't do silly little, voices. There's no time for that, okay? There's no time. We got to get to the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi, guys. This is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
All right. And boom, there's the ticker with the topics that we'll have tonight. It's going to be a blast. Looks like we've got my buddy Dave. He must be back on the West Coast. Dave did a last-minute trip to Heroes Con. I'm a little jealous. Not going to lie. Might have some news from Heroes Con to share with you all tonight. Tell you what, look, I'm like, oh, there's just so much to talk about. I got to point at it. Otherwise, you might miss that. You might have just stared at my beautiful visage. Remember when you could get your portraits in high school and like they sometimes asked you to do this one, the lean on your fist? I did that one for one of my yearbook pictures, I think. Anyway, let's just get into it. Talk about some DC stuff. So, according to Bleeding Cool, writer Dennis Camp, who's had obviously a humongous year, Ultimates, Absolute Martian Manhunter, and Assorted Crisis Events, nominated for Best Writer, Eisner. Lots of amazing things. According to Bleeding Cool, he signed an exclusive with DC. Now, that hasn't been confirmed yet, I want to point out, by either Dennis Camp himself or DC Comics in a press release. So, is it true? Don't know yet. But it does make a certain amount of sense because we already know that Dennis Camp has been signed to write this upcoming event, like crossover story for the Absolute Universe. And that sounds like the kind of thing that DC would be likely to sort of promote at San Diego Comic-Con in a month, with all their big news. So it sounds plausible to me. I don't know for sure. But one thing we definitely know is artist Gavin Guidry, sometimes guest with all of you in the chat. He watches the show from time to time. Really great guy, great artist. He is currently drawing The Flash, and he posted on his socials that he signed an exclusive with DC. So that one is confirmed for sure. And I think that Gavin's crushing it, so I'm not surprised that DC would want to snag him and guarantee some work. In fact, I'll just explain. Back in the day, when DC or Marvel signed an exclusive, at first that really meant like you could only work for them, Marvel or DC. These days, there's typically a little more nuance, and everybody's deal is going to be a little different. But usually they do carve out, the permission to do creator-owned comics yourself. Like you could do that if you can get a deal at, we'll say, Image or a crowd-funded book. Marvel or DC typically don't have a problem with that kind of stuff anymore. They just don't really want you working at a competitor like Boom or IDW, Dark Horse, Dynamite, that kind of stuff. And if they sign you to an exclusive, they are guaranteeing you that they will have work for you. So they have to provide that work. So it is a two-way street. There is still an advantage, I think, to signing an exclusive. But yeah, congrats to Gavin. Probably congrats to Dennis. We don't have it confirmed, but I thought I'd still share it. I would say no, it probably does not mean that. What I'm saying is, if he's signed to an exclusive, very excellent chance that he can still do his creator-owned books like Assorted Crisis events. Yeah, exactly. Since Kip acknowledged it, to me, that's sort of like a soft confirmation. Otherwise, he would just either say no or ignore it. But anyway, Flash is quite good. Ryan North writing that one, bringing a lot of the same ideas that he does to Fantastic Four, where, sure, there's a bit of a continuing narrative in the background, but mostly you're telling one cool adventure with like some sort of a science-y twist to it, and then you're getting out of there. It's really cool. A lot of times it does. It's a guaranteed. Going to have some more DC news, though, so I'm going to power through. This one is just infantile. So, Dean Cain. He's kind of being savaged online, in my opinion. Most fans do not agree with how he handled this. He basically attacked Supergirl actress Millie Alcock's appearance, and here's how it started. Excuse me. Began with Cain reposting this thing on Twitter with someone asking, "Hey, if Supergirl's skin is bulletproof, how does she have ear piercings?" And I think everybody watching here could tell the answer to that person. First of all, we know that Supergirl actually grew up on Krypton without superpowers or bulletproofness. She could have easily gotten her ears pierced there. Second, we've already seen in the Superman movie, she likes to go to planets with a red sun where she doesn't have her power so that she can drink and actually feel the effects. She could also easily get her ears pierced. It feels like stuff that you can easily read between the lines and you don't need spoon-fed to you. But apparently Dean Cain, he shared this little thinking emoji going like, that makes sense, yeah. It's like, dude, you played Superman. You clearly picked up on next to none of that. Anyway, then one of his fans replied to this post with an image of Chaka. I don't expect all of you to be old enough to remember who that was, but he was sort of a monkey boy from the 1970 show Land of the Lost. That was a Sid and Marty Krofft show. I kind of liked it quite a bit growing up. But yeah, clearly, let me show you that image. It goes, "Why does she look like this guy?" Which is just so mean-spirited and not accurate. I mean, Millie Alcock seems like an absolutely lovely actress. I don't know where you come from that you're like, oh, she looks like this, like sort of monster. And Dean Cain goes, "I laughed." Dude, that is not how Superman would act. You are so far away from the character you played. Anyway, if you don't know, he played Superman for 4 seasons on a network television show. You would think he'd pick up something from that time, but he apparently didn't learn much about the character or pick up any of his good manners. He's 59. Millie Alcock is 26. So, quite an age difference. Kind of weird to pick on her. I just don't see what advantage he saw there. Yeah, I saw his audition for Ice, and it did not look very impressive. It's just he's awful, genuinely, just awful. But I don't want to give it too much oxygen, so I'm going to keep going. Here's another one against Supergirl. Can you sense a pattern? There's certain people that just want this stuff to fail. So if you don't recognize that guy, that is Chris Bors, arguably better known as the Irate Gamer. He was one of the first, I guess probably you'd say the most successful knockoffs of the angry video game nerd. I think that's a nice way to say it. I mean, another way to say is that he plagiarized a lot of the early angry video game nerd commentary and lines. But anyway, he's still going today. He posted this week on social media. He's showing a Supergirl piece of merchandise that has a clearance sticker, and he commented on that. So Boris posted this photo with merchandise with a clearance sticker and his face, reacting to it like, hey, can you believe that this stuff's failing? That kind of an attitude. But here's the thing, folks. All that's showing is that you just don't understand 100% how Walmart works. And I do not expect everybody to understand that. But the Supergirl merchandise is not already on discount clearance like it's failing. That is not what's happening. The comments to it overwhelmingly explain. And if you have shopped at Walmart, you might actually already know this. I mean, I knew this. Sometimes when something is brand new, it actually doesn't have a designated spot in the store. It doesn't have an end cap or space because it's kind of coming out early. And so what they do, the clearance is their catch-all. So they classify it under clearance. It does get a sticker that says clearance, but guess what? If you look at the price that's being shown here, $49.97, that is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. That is not a discount. It is just in that area. So all this guy did is sort of show his ass. It's too early. Maybe Supergirl will not be successful, but we don't know that yet. And it feels like people are trying to make it seem like a failure before we even get there. Just my 2 cents. I could be wrong. Felt like a weird thing to post. Felt weird to me. Thank you for the support, Chuck. I appreciate you. It's not a discount. Yeah, exactly. That is full price. Anyway. We've got some fun DC news too, just to be clear. That's a real screenshot there of Scott Snyder going, wink, wink. Yeah, I'm going to see it too. And hopefully I can get an IMAX ticket. I'm excited to see it. I'll say this. I don't know how accurate it will be to the comic that it's based on, but I think you guys know I love that comic. And I think it's got a lot of potential. So why Scott Snyder here? So this past weekend, Heroes Con, DC, of course, had a panel. Scott Snyder was on it. And he seems to hint very strongly that there will be an upcoming book at DC with writer Stephanie Williams. So specifically, he was talking about DC's plans for future books. Snyder gave this huge wink to Williams. She was sitting in the front of the audience. And he was saying that DC plans to, quote, reinvest in the talent and have made more books like Dead Man. And we have some incredible series. This is where he winks. He goes, coming out soon that we're very proud of as well, that you guys haven't seen yet. They were really, really excited about. So I'm glad that this guy, Chris Anton, posted a video of it to Twitter. It's only about 13 seconds. And so what could that be? I mean, that pretty clearly to me says she's going to be doing something with DC. And she's on a roll, so I'm not surprised by that at all. But what? Well, the most likely would probably be Vixen, just because she has been campaigning for that to be a book. She's been saying it on social media. She's done it in interviews. I saw her on BJ Kicks a couple months ago. She's got an idea that she wants to do Vixen as what she calls cosmic horror. If you don't know, Vixen is kind of like Animal Man, gets her powers in a different way, but still connected to the Red and can take on the powers of different animals. It's thanks to like an amulet that she wears. But yeah, she could have, the speed of a cheetah or the strength of a rhino, etc. Were you in the panel, Dave, by any chance? That's a possibility too, because she has done a fill-in for Wonder Woman recently, and I guess she's going to do another 2 issues for Wonder Woman pretty soon. So that's definitely possible. Well, who's to say that there's only one thing? But I think that there's a good chance of her doing a new book. Let's see. She did say on her TikTok she has something big coming up with a company she worked with before and showed a hint that looked like a mace. Oh, interesting. Saw some people thinking Absolute Hawk Girl. Absolute, huh? Maybe. I think that would be a lot for Absolute right now. They seem to be really like putting that out pretty steadily. But maybe Hawk Girl in the main continuity? Maybe? Oh, you're talking about Stephanie Phillips. That's completely different. Yeah, never mind then. Stephanie Williams is a... And you know what? I bet that the 2 of those ladies will get their names confused because they're both kind of up and coming around the same time. But yeah, very different people. So yeah, never mind. Forget all that. We'll see what she does. But she is nominated for an Eisner for Best Writer this year. I've got a bunch of Absolute news. One thing is DC announced this week that they will be doing a one-shot comic that's set in the Absolute universe. It spins out of Absolute Catwoman. It's called Absolute Cassandra Cain, The Shadow's Hand. It's definitely not quite what we know from the main continuity, though. It's definitely a very different type of idea other than Cassandra Cain was, sort of a trained ninja assassin person at first. The one-shot is going to be written by Che Grayson, the writer also of Absolute Catwoman. Art and variant cover by Matthias Bergera. It's going to come out September 9th between issues 3 and 4 of Absolute Catwoman. And even though this is a one-shot, they'll actually pause Catwoman for that month. So Catwoman issue 3 comes out August, then the Cassandra Cain one-shot in September, and then in October, Catwoman picks back up. So it's a separate sort of side story, but it does fill in the backstory of what's going on in Catwoman, so it is related. It is related. DC did share a description for what this will be about. It's just a hint, really, but it says, years ago, the Joker trained with the League of Assassins, and when he learned all he could, he slaughtered everyone. Out of the wreckage rose Lady Shiva and her daughter, Cassandra Cain. Absolute Cassandra Cain, The Shadow's Hand #1, reveals the origin of the Absolute Universe's most formidable assassin and how her story is one that is intertwined with the world's greatest thief, Selena Kyle. All right. I'm down. Yeah. I mean, when they introduce a character like that, we're obviously subverting something because we're presenting her as a villain. And we know this character as a hero. So we're automatically primed to expect a hero's journey or a path of redemption. Once you have those expectations, you can easily play with them and subvert them even further. Maybe she's just flat out villain in this version, or maybe she does follow classical structure, but it goes from a more extreme version of what we've seen before. I like it. Good for Che Grayson. I think after having read this, it is not just sort of something that supports Absolute Batman. It is its own story, and it's really fun. I like it. I've got things to say later tonight, so could be something with a lot of potential. It is interesting. I think some of this stuff, like Che Grayson writing this book, maybe Stephanie Williams writing something at DC, maybe that's part of why that Black Comic Alliance hit the pause button on their boycott idea. It may have been like shared with them, like, hey, you may want to wait. DC is aware of this, and it seems like they are giving some writers and artists some opportunities. Congratulations. That's really, really cool. Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to check that out when I get a chance. And another absolute character. This was announced at Heroes Con. This is the debut of Barbara Gordon. Of course, we think of her as Batgirl, but apparently in this, she will only be called the Bat, which is something a little different. The character is going to appear in issue 24 of Absolute Batman. That comes out this September. And artist Nick Dragata was on the panel, and he shared some details about the character. He said to Marie Javins, like, hey, I thought I'd homage my own cover because everyone else is having fun doing it. Why not me too? By the way, he shared this on Instagram, and I just asked, I was like, you know, obviously you were going for something eye-catching with Absolute Batman #1. When you finished it, did you think that it was going to be so iconic that it would lead to homages? And he said, no, definitely didn't expect that, but really, really enjoying them all. And I like hearing that he's not like, hey, that's my idea. I like it. You wouldn't think at first that such a seemingly simple pose would catch people's eyes like it does. But it's deceptive. I mean, it really does present the character in a powerful way. And there's a certain amount of negative space around the character that frames them. You're also getting a full body shot, which I think a lot of covers don't always give you, but I think is very exciting to see the full character on display. So I just think it's really cool that this sort of pose has taken off and led to like already dozens of homages within like 2 years. But he also said about this that Barbara knows that Batman didn't kill her father. Everybody else in the world right now thinks that Batman killed Gordon. She's going to grab her dad's coat. So she's wearing this as part of her costume, but you can see that she's interwoven it with the Bat cape. And if you're reading the book, this does make sense. Batman recently sort of was fighting Poison Ivy. She was there as a police officer, and he was like, no, I'll handle this. And he like sort of shoved her off a cliff, but with his cape that acted as a parachute. And then he left that and a helmet with her. He left a helmet behind. So she has access to his technology. People initially clowned on them Knicks, though. Steve, I'm happy for you that your team won. And it was impressive. You know, game 3 coming back from that like 39-point deficit or something. I will say that it's pretty disappointing to see so many fans in New York City like rioting and destroying other people's cars and stuff like that after a win. I feel like that bad behavior is why a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be into sports because, and you're like, well, that really isn't all fans. Like I like sports, but I've never considered like vandalizing somebody's vehicle. It is kind of upsetting though, but I'm happy for you that your team won. Anyway, one other thing, like Dragata posted this to his Instagram. It's got some of his design ideas for how this suit works, what the different layers represent. He put a lot of thought into the functionality. And this version of the character, the Bat, she will arm herself with Alfred's shotgun that Batman had stolen and modified to become non-lethal. It fires batarangs. So she's got access to a bunch of his technology. We'll have to see exactly how she got everything and modified it, but it could be really, really cool. Clowning the Abs Batman cover, it's the hotness. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. I would say that Nick posted something way cooler to his Instagram today. All right, hold on. Maybe I missed that. I'm going to Nick Dragata's Instagram to see what Dave is talking about. I'm sure a bunch of people are. Okay, so I go there and... Oh! I see. He shared a clip of the interview that he did with Dave for the Direct Edition podcast. I see what you're saying. Yes, it was a self-serving, selfish moment. Incredibly rude. You've just grabbed a ton of my audience and stolen them for yourself. I cannot believe this behavior. I'm outraged. I'm absolutely outraged that you would promote an interview with a popular artist on my show. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to watching the full interview because, I fairly recently made that episode about Nick Dragata, and I find his approach very interesting. I like that he's taken a lot of storytelling from manga, but it's still uniquely American and stylized. I really do like it. So I'm curious to see an interview. Yeah, agreed. It doesn't sort of give away too much about who she is. In fact, I would say that this version of the character, the Bat, is way more like what we know of as Batman. Like lost a parent and became this superhero to fight it. Pretty interesting. Obligatory Baja Blast Post and come on Mets. You want everything. Sure. Yep. Nightmare Batman in the Snyder films because of the trench coat. But I like that, Commissioner Gordon has always worn a trench coat. I like the idea that she's taken that and made that her cape. When Jim Lee created Gambit, he wanted to give him a cape, but it didn't feel like, he should have something like Thor's cape. So he gave him a trench coat, and it kind of works the same in comics language where you can just sort of have it spread out behind the character and frame them. I have to admit, I don't know who Jerry Moriarty is. Sorry. Can't know everybody. ROM. No spoilers here about what's in the story, but ROM debuted. Robert Kirkman and Skybound surprised readers this week when they released a ROM one-shot. It was in these mask blind bags. I didn't get one. I got 2 blind bags in the hopes that I could get a copy of ROM because I knew it would be in there. But I only got 2 copies of Mask. I would love to read it. But it will probably, I don't know this, but it will probably be released on its own at some point. Anyway, yeah, it got a one-shot comic, and it establishes that the Space Knight character is part of the Energon universe. Makes sense. It's a Hasbro character. I get it. Issue written by Robert Kirkman, art by Lorenzo De Felici. In other words, the Void Rivals team got back together to do another story within the Energon universe. For now, it's only in the blind bags anyway. I bet that they release it separately. I don't know that, but I bet they do. Oh, cool. The Mask Origins. Yep, I'm going to mention that. So anyway, issue was a potential pull in the blind bag. Aside from variant covers, the blind bag was kind of cool because you could also potentially get ROM or Mask Origins. But I guess the ROM was pretty high. It was said to be something close to like 1 in 10. So it's not necessarily that rare if you picked up a blind bag. Other surprise comics, like I just said, you could get Mask Origins, which is sort of a prequel, the actual origins of Mask. Some of that was in the Skybound Universe special for Free Comic Book Day this year. But you could also get next month's Mask issue 2. I gotta say, if you're gonna do a blind bag, it is kind of cool to me that Skybound puts in totally other comics like this. I think that that's a cool surprise. That's a cool potential pull. Makes it a little more rare. I like it. To me, that fulfills the promise of what a blind bag is. It could be a lot of different things, not just a cover. I like it. Got Mask Origins. No ROM, though. Hoping for a reprint. I hope so, too, because I would like to read it. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Are Micronauts next? Probably not Micronauts because there's no toy to go with it. ROM is a little different. This also isn't an ongoing, but he has a lot of comic book history, so he's got recognition within the comic book readers. So it's understandable why they might roll him in to this stuff. It does seem to open the doors, though, for just about any Hasbro toy line that they wanted to push, that there's a place that it could fit within this Energon universe. They've kind of done a good job of rolling it out slowly and finding connective tissue so that it makes sense. If they wanted to do Inhumanoids or Visionaries, and I don't know that they would, because again, I don't think that Hasbro's interested in selling those toys right now, but if they wanted to, there would be easy ways to connect that. Battle Beasts could make a lot of sense, especially if they wanted to roll them in as supporting characters on Void Rivals. So, ROM is a Hasbro-owned property. He's had comic runs, obviously originally at Marvel. Marvel owns those stories and the supporting characters that they created, but they don't own the idea of ROM as a cyborg space knight, or the fact that he has enemies that are supernatural shapeshifters called dire wraiths. That was all on the original box. So that overall concept is part of ROM. But the specific execution that Marvel and later IDW used, that would not be up for grabs necessarily. But yeah, he's going to become a supporting character in, I think, issues like 32 and 33 at least of Void Rivals. Skybound has released redacted covers with a character blacked out that is clearly ROM. So anyway, ROM's a cool character though. He's like this noble cyborg. I think that there might be some connective tissue to how they designed some of the costuming in the book Void Rivals, which takes place on an alien planet, because to a degree, their pilot helmets look a little bit like ROM. So they could connect some of that mythology if they wanted to. I don't know, but dire wraiths are a part of the toy. Even though they didn't release a toy dire wraith, the box did say that was his mission, was to hunt them down. I thought that was a pretty cool surprise. I'm not going to lie. I don't think anybody saw it on their cards, especially since Marvel had recently brokered a deal to reprint all their ROM comics and their Micronauts comics. So people were like, oh, I wonder if Marvel will get back the rights to these things. It makes a lot of sense to me that Hasbro was like, no, we want to do all the comics with basically one publisher, but we've got a good relationship with Marvel. Hasbro makes all the Marvel action figures. Of course, they're going to potentially have a good relationship for doing reprints. I don't expect GoBots anytime soon. Does anybody here remember the Marvel Mangaverse? I would say that it might be most infamously remembered as a place where Akira Yoshida wrote, and that was the pen name of Marvel's current editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski. He actually tricked Marvel into thinking that he was a Japanese man to get writing work. It's not a great bit of Marvel history, to be honest. But anyway, Marvel's still going to celebrate their defunct Mangaverse line with a series of 25th anniversary one-shots. The original line did run about 2 years. And I think that people kind of liked the art, but they didn't connect with the stories in a big way. I don't remember it making a big impact. I really don't. They're going to do 5 one-shots. They'll release weekly throughout September. It's a good way to do it. Marvel explains the premise. The trio of Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Weapon Extremis, Lauren Kinney, and Legion, Ilyana Rasputin, friends with very different ideas on how to stop a prophesied apocalypse brought on by the return of the Phoenix, will turn on one another as they wrestle with whether their actions are more likely to save the world or hasten its destruction. Could the return of the Mangaverse be over before it even starts? Other key characters that'll show up in issues there, they include Riri Williams as Ironheart. They say Quanon, which is the actual Asian version of Psylocke. She will be there, but it sounds like a Ghost Rider take on it because she'll have a Shinigami-possessed motorcycle. Shinigami is a Japanese death god. And Winter Soldier is going to be a sorcerer. So some very different ideas there. Let's see. Remember Vampy, the manga-inspired Vampirella reboot? I think that B. Clay Moore wrote some of that. Yeah, I think I do remember some of that. Oh, yeah. Because Bill Mantlo was writing both books, Incredible Hulk and ROM, and so he did the crossover. It was interesting how, ROM was super integrated with the Marvel Universe back then. Yeah. Oh, did the Mangaverse have Scotty Young and Kari Andrews? I think you're right. Wow. Cebulski is honestly one of the worst things to happen to Marvel. Insane editorial these days as the public drops books left and right. All they seem to be interested in doing is coming up with interesting ideas for events, and it just keeps interrupting the run of any of their talented writers that are otherwise doing, an interesting book. Like the only books I'm really enjoying at Marvel right now were some of the Ultimate books, and now for the mainline, Infernal Hulk and Fantastic Four are the only ones I'm reading, and they're very much being left to themselves. They're kind of flying under the radar, and I'm kind of grateful for it because they get to just do their own thing. The Winter Sorcerer, yeah. So they've got some different ideas. It honestly sounds like, hey, we're making a big deal that we're remembering the 25th anniversary, but guess what? We know that nobody remembers those characters, so we're doing new takes on the characters that we have now. All right, so this hits my nostalgia bone. Bringing back the Marvel Mangaverse, that doesn't do anything for me. Remembering the 90s trading cards that Marvel did, that stuff I loved. Absolutely loved. So, Marvel's popular 90s trading cards are apparently being brought back as a coffee table art book, and that's according to senior editor Tom Brevoort. He was on the Word Balloon podcast this week, and he talked about it. He said, I worked on the first set of trading cards with then Marvel editor Bob Budiansky, and he and I pretty much did all the sets with some other people. I think that there were 4 main lines, a Masterpieces, X-Men, and Spider-Man, if I'm remembering right. Oh, excuse me. That's what he talks about next. Yeah, we did the first 4 main sets, Marvel Masterpieces, early X-Men, early Spider-Man. Okay, sorry. Forgot that that's part of what he said. Dark Horse is working on a book. They're talking to Bob and putting together a big compilation of all that artwork and a bunch of the behind the scenes. And the first one had some okay artwork. You had like early Mark Bagley, you had some Walt Simonson in here, you had some Jim Lee, Eric Larson, you had some really good talent. I think Mike Zeck did a few. And it was original art for the cards. It wasn't like repurposed from a comic book or anything. But it was so popular that like every future edition, they got like sort of their bigger and bigger artists to do them. Yeah, Series 2 was really, really strong. But the X-Men line was also super, super strong. They might have done that on Series 3 as well. Because, like, basically some of the backs just gave you a paragraph or two about the hero, maybe first appearance. And then they started making, like, a puzzle piece. It's not really a puzzle, but you know what I'm saying. You could put together 9 cards and have a poster. It's gorgeous stuff. It really was fun. That was probably, you know what? Now that I think of it, I still like things like Gachapon and blind bags and things like that. Blind boxes for toys. I have like a weakness for them, even though I know that they're not going to be exceptional. But now that I think of it, it may come from my nostalgia for these, because I was very young and new to comics and these were coming out. And some of it was like my first real introduction to who some of these heroes were. Like, explain Daredevil to me. I've only been reading Spider-Man and, maybe Iron Man. So, you know what I'm saying? It was my introduction, and it was so exciting to open them up and see all this new artwork and stuff. I loved it. Series 3 came together as 1 or 2 giant posters, huge. Before was multiple 9-card pages for binders. Mike, thank you for helping me remember. Oh yeah, Lee Weeks. He did a bunch, didn't he? I love Lee Weeks. Super underrated artist. So talented. The Maverick card gave him much better powers than he ever got in the comic. Maverick was pretty lightly used in the comic. He didn't do a whole lot. Maybe someday, maybe. I'll have to think about it. In spite of the table art book, I think my full sets of those 90s cards will still be worth less than a Snickers bar. Maybe. I don't know. It would be very cool to see binders, to me, of all these cards. Obviously, I know these days people are into like Pokemon, Magic, and stuff, and you'd be flipping through binders going like, oh, that's, a rare one, or oh, that's a useful one. To me, this stuff like hits my nostalgia bone big. Nostalgia can be a dangerous thing. It makes you feel good things and for no real tangible reason. Yeah, Art Adams did some great stuff on these cards. Folks, if you weren't there, all I can say is it was very, very exciting at the time. Really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to this. So according to Dark Horse's site, the collection, titled Marvel Universe Gallery 1990 to 1994 Trading Card Collection, will release on September 8th. Pretty soon. My memory is that the Marvel ones were the first, and that they did so well that that's what inspired DC and Dark Horse and Valiant and probably even Image to do a bunch. The Marvel cards exploded during the pandemic and inspired a whole new collector sphere, and now there's crazy sets still coming out. That might explain why they're deciding to do this now, like sort of as almost fallout from that speculation burst a few years ago. I loved it. Yeah, for me, I had a paper route at this point. I was pretty young. My paper route finished in this area that had a 24/7 convenience store, and that's also where I first discovered my comics. But sometimes, I'd collected my money for the week, and I could spend, a little on a drink or a candy bar. It was pretty modest what I'd spend it on. I spent some on comics, and then I saw these cards that they had at the table. I could not stop buying them. I loved them. And they started doing, I guess they'd always done cards for like movies, now that I think of it. So before these in 1990, there had been the Batman movie cards in 1989. That was probably the first big thing for comic book cards in retrospect, because that movie was huge. And then in 1990, they would have done Ninja Turtles movie cards too. So yeah. Let's see. Just returned from Heroes Con. Thank you for the super chat, Sigma. Rough trip back to New York City, but Comic Tropes makes it all better. All right. Thanks for putting together this fantastic show. We're going to have fun. Maybe I'll have to find one or two of these old cards at a vintage store and open them live on the show just for fun. Oh, going from a Marvel Dark Horse collaboration to another Marvel Dark Horse collaboration, they're partnering with Marvel to produce an artist edition version of Barry Windsor-Smith's Weapon X, which I made a whole episode about it, folks. Oh, and Jim Rugg from Cartoonist Kayfabe just released a book about the making of it. It really is something special. It ran in the pages of Marvel Comics Presents as 8-page segments. Beautiful art, interesting story, added to Wolverine rather than diminished. Really, really good. This is the first in what's intended to be a series of oversized archival collections, black and white artwork with commentary. So this edition will include new scans from the artwork from Marvel's archives, a commentary, a new essay from comics historians Chris Rial and John Lind, additional art from Windsor-Smith's issues of X-Men 205 and 214, and something they call archival materials. Sounds like they're adding some extra stuff beyond just the gorgeous pages. So there's what it's called. 192 pages, not nothing. 9x12, big, but not quite as big as some of the artist editions you've seen before. $60 though in November. $60 for a 200-page hardcover is definitely a lot less than most artist editions go for. So I think some of that is because they decided to size it a little smaller. Oh, I am right there with you, Andy. And I liked the colors quite a bit in Weapon X, but the artwork, the line art is just so pleasing. Hopefully some of you, most of you have read Monsters by Barry Windsor-Smith, which took him something like 20 years to make, maybe longer. I forget now. I've talked about it on my main channel, but that's all black and white artwork. And boy, does Barry Windsor-Smith art look gorgeous in black and white. I mean, it always looked gorgeous. One of my absolute favorite artists. Now that I think of it, I don't think I've done a dedicated. Well, I did the Weapon X episode, I guess. So that was a Barry Windsor-Smith episode. But I could talk about him again. I could definitely talk about him again. Because I didn't like go deep into, his supernatural fantasy type stuff, which he did before and after a lot of his Marvel work. Monsters was something special. It really is an incredible, epic story. I talk about Monsters as my top book for that year when I do my top 10 list. And I also have it in an episode where I talk a lot about writer Bill Mantlo and how he sort of kind of plagiarized, how intentional that was. We don't know, but he definitely plagiarized Barry Windsor-Smith's story. So I compare, the Hulk story that Mantlo did with Monsters by Barry Windsor-Smith and compare and contrast the similarities and differences. Mm-hmm. I love the way he and his colorists produce their color art. Super unique. It was nice because rather than color every detail of like a crowd of people, you could make like a whole crowd of people, maybe like a light blue. It was a really nice approach to coloring. Flat colors did justice to Barry Windsor-Smith, but I believe he even colored a bunch of his own artwork in retrospect. Yeah. It's hard to say. I'm dealing with a lot of depression, but I'm trying to keep that to myself and not bum anybody else. I'm trying to keep it as much to myself as possible these days. But if I just made you think like, oh no, my wallet, there's a $60 that I wasn't planning on spend. Damn you, Chris. I'm going to hurt your wallet again. So Marvel's doing another artist edition, this time with Skybound. So specifically Act 4, which is the artist edition line by, what's his name? The editor. He basically created the artist edition format. All of a sudden I'm blanking on his name. Dumb. But anyway, so Marvel's making this. Daniel Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill, which, believe it or not, was all the way back in 2021. This is even bigger. So this is coming out 12 inches by 17 inches, basically as close as possible to the art boards. New scanning of all that original art, 144 pages. It's going to include, high-res scans of the black and white art. I am interested. Oh, it's a great 5-issue series. Strong recommend. They are planning on doing a bunch of additional upcoming titles. Act 4 is. They're going to do an Amazing Spider-Man Steve Ditko edition, George Perez's New Teen Titans, Doctor Strange by Paul Smith, so underrated. Such an underrated artist. He deserves that attention. Jason Pearson's Body Bags, rest in peace. And DC Silver Age covers and stories. I like that. I mean, how catchy were some of those goofy-ass covers where, Superman is stealing water from Aquaman or choking Lois out in space, Yeah. Paul Smith's Doctor Strange, pretty special. The Extremity edition was fantastic. This is not necessarily the exact same thing, but probably gives you an idea of what you could expect in terms of the scans. So this one isn't coming out, just to be clear, until Wednesday, February 3rd. That's in comic book stores, and then a month later in bookstores. I like that Skybound does stuff like that. That's $150. It's bigger, costs a little bit more. But yeah. an artist edition that hasn't already gotten one. That's a really fun idea. There's one that got one, but it's not easy to find anymore. That's Michael Golden. I would love to get that, but that hasn't been done. We haven't gotten an English version of all the volumes of artist edition of Katsuhiro Otomo. He's got a huge series that came out in the last few years over in Japan. That would be really cool to get in English, as well as maybe somebody like I love Naoki Urasawa, maybe Tezuka, to like really explain to people what's so important about him. I think that the artwork was really cool in something like this that I got from West Coast Avengers claim sales, an art of Fist of the North Star. I think an artist edition of Fist of the North Star would appeal to a lot of people here. It could find a lot of new fans. Oh, no, I just blanked on what I was thinking. Silvestri, Batman, Joker. Yeah, the Deadly Duo. That would look really good in black and white. That would look gorgeous. Thank you so much. It's been in the back of my mind and bothering me that I couldn't come up with it. Scott Dunbier is the editor. Chris, the comic troopers support you and care about you. I feel that. It's Men's Mental Health Month. You're not alone. We've got your back. That's really nice of you. That's nice of you. Oh, no kidding. Okay, I was, that was actually somebody else that I was going to say. Although for Shiro Masamune, I think an artist edition of the Ghost in the Shell stuff would probably sell the best. That would probably be very popular. Oh, that's a great idea. I've tried to talk about Alex Nino whenever I have a good excuse to. Really masterful Filipino artist. Really, really good. One of the best that came out of that sort of wave in the 70s. I like that idea, Andy. That's really cool. Not this week, but I did like 2 weeks ago on the show. Yeah. It's interesting. It seems that Japan doesn't have quite the same interest in collecting the original printings or the original art that we do. There's a respect for it, absolutely. And some of it is quite valuable, but not all of it. Toshio Maeda is the guy that kind of invented tentacle porn, which that's not as, important as like somebody like Tezuka, but it's still a subgenre that's like got some historical significance. He was at my Seattle Comic-Con and he was selling his pages for like $100. So I got one because I'm like, well, that's kind of history. $100? Yeah. So we haven't gotten an Invincible artist edition by Ryan Ottley, but I will tell you, Ryan has been sharing a ton of his Invincible artwork scans and talking about what was going through his head for the creative process. If you look at him on Instagram or Twitter, he's been sharing a lot of insight into his artwork lately. Yeah, you might like that. I think that there is an All Red Madman, but I can always do with more. I can always take more. Kurt Swan's a nice pull too. There's a lot of important artists. And I think that you have to balance that with an artist edition is a very expensive edition. And so you have to make sure that there is an audience there. So it's not all about just paying respect. You got to factor in some of the business decisions of what will sell. So I do get why something like Weapon X specifically, or a more recent artist like Daniel Warren Johnson are getting these choices. Keith Giffen's tremendously influential, so I'd be all for that. An artist edition is basically, in its simplest terms, a scan of the original artboard printed at dimensions closer to that size than what you see in comics. And it gives you some insight into artists' processes because you can see, what type of pencil and inks they use a little bit, where they do patches, where they do whiteouts, like what kind of decisions are being made with notes on the side. There's a lot that you can learn from it. And if it's an artist that you like, it's just really exciting to see their untouched up artwork. It's a little more raw, but it's got energy to it. All right, I'm going to keep going, though. Some quick stuff about Marvel. Marvel continues to end titles at 10 issues. I guess for a while they were only doing 5, but 10 seems to be the magic number that they're all ending at. X-Men United is the latest one. Only reason I'm a little bummed about that is I really respect the artist of it, Tiago. So yeah, current Amazon listings have added the number as, like 4 or 5 out of 10. So it's ending. Here's another thing, though. Meanwhile, Marvel seems to be just hinting, that it may continue the Ultimate Universe in some form. We knew that Ultimate Endgame and Ultimate Finale are coming out very, very soon. But this cover and description of Ultimate Endgame 5 gives me pause. So specifically, each issue of Ultimate Endgame has come with several variant covers. One of them has always been a Phil Noto cover that they call the foreshadowing cover. And for issues 1 through 4, it hinted at something that would happen in the following issue. Issue 5 is the last one, and they added this image, hinting at what's next. Well, people have been talking about this on social media quite a bit. And the biggest question is, who is that removing Doom's mask? A lot of people don't feel that this is meant to be Reed Richards. It could be. It's always been implied that it's Reed Richards underneath the Doom mask, that he was tortured by the villain, the Maker. Some fans think that this is maybe actually Victor Von Doom, and he was given trauma to think that he was Reed Richards by the Maker, which could make a certain amount of sense. Who would the Maker? The Maker is also an alternate universe Reed Richards. Maybe he'd want to have tortured Victor Von Doom as compared to torturing a version of himself. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. There's an implication anyway that there could be future stories to be told with this character. Could be nothing. Could be nothing. Maybe that's just Reed. Maybe it doesn't hint, but maybe. The same day as we get the final issue of Ultimate Endgame, we're also getting sort of a little anthology that lets all the original creators wrap up their final thoughts with their characters. It's called Ultimate Finale. It also features a variant cover that they're calling the foreshadowing cover, which is an interesting way to phrase it, with Peach Momoko doing it. And yeah, it seems to imply that her character is maybe going into hiding or something. So who knows? If it's not leading to anything, it might at least be opening the door a crack that they could tell future stories with this. So maybe it'll be more of a pause than a hard end, I don't know. The Maker is a pretty great villain, in my opinion. I think he's one of the best new villains for Marvel to get. The idea of an alternate Reed Richards in and of itself is interesting, but the fact that they were able to capitalize on their first run of the Ultimate Universe and literally corrupt one of the heroes from that run, and he has all that history, it does make the character a lot more tragic, in my opinion, because he was on a hero's journey and he failed. He became a villain. Maybe. We'll see. I think you just figured it out, Strain. Yep, you're right. The Ultimate Universe was being controlled by the GoBots. I think that's what fans want. You're right. The GoBots. I think that is one of the problems that Marvel has going on right now, is that they really need to simplify. They need to let each title just do its own thing, not be hung up with too much continuity. But that's not what they're doing these days. Oh, this one bummed me out. Dave, I don't know if you heard about this, if you're still in here. Dave and I went to this museum recently. But the Northwest Museum of Cartoon Arts opened in Portland, Oregon, just a few months ago. Dave and I went down and saw Michael Avon Oeming and Brian Michael Bendis do a talk about powers and their history together. It was really, really fun. And it wasn't a humongous space, but it was well organized. They had there's always like a big exhibit, and right when we went, it was Pacific Northwest artists, so you got to see a lot of original art. They had like room for classes and presentations and stuff. It was a great idea, but just a few months later, they've announced that they're closing. Yeah. Their statement specifically read, "It is with a heavy heart that I'm announcing the closure of the Northwest Museum of the Cartoon Arts. For the past several months, we haven't been able to meet our expenses, and there are no grants in sight. So we've been solely reliant on funds from museum attendance and fundraising. As such, we will run out of our money by the end of July. Our current exhibit, The Spirit of Will Eisner," they've got tons of original art by Will Eisner. Wow. "Ends at the end of this month. We will have no funds available to curate and construct a next exhibit. Given this, our museum is no longer viable at this time and in this location. So we will need to shut the doors when the Eisner exhibit ends at the end of June." The gift shop, if you are in the Portland area and you want to swing by, you not only get to see original art by Will Eisner, but everything in the gift shop is apparently currently half off, and they're going to sell off all their fixtures and furniture in July. So it's too bad that they weren't able to somehow capitalize and make this a thing. I think Portland has a tremendous amount of history with comics, thanks to Dark Horse and other publishers that operate around there. All I can say is maybe there's some version of this organization that will come back in another form at another location. But also remember, Mike Richardson is planning to open a pop culture museum there in the Portland area. So maybe that will sort of also take the place. I've talked about sort of art or stories that have been forgotten and aren't really fully available online. I haven't talked about stolen art. You're talking about how New Avengers came to be, and I think it's way better than the comic we got. The guy who told me claims it exists. I don't know much about that, though. No. Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe someday the Smithsonian will get proper funding again, maybe in the next administration, and maybe we could get some sort of history with comics. That would be nice. In the meantime, there's a pretty amazing exhibit at the Skirball Center in Los Angeles about the history of American comics. And there's the Billy Ireland Cartoon Museum, which is massive. That's part of, I believe it's Ohio State University. It's in Ohio. It's one of those universities. I think it's Ohio. So there are some things like it, but yeah, it's a bummer that the Pacific Northwest couldn't support this. Afua Richardson-Allen had an interesting story this week. So Afua Richardson-Allen, if you're not familiar, she's got African and Native American history. So she's worked on projects like, like Kaori, the Native American superhero that's been in What If and recent Marvel comics. She's done covers and art for Marvel, DC, and Vertigo. She did Mad Max at Vertigo, I know. She's done stuff for Kodansha, like Attack on Titan promo stuff. NPR, she did a comic for them. She won the 2008 Top Cow Talent Search, which is always pretty prestigious. She's done a lot of great stuff. But she posted this week to Facebook about a rude fan interaction at Indiana Comic-Con that I think we can all learn from. And I do want to set this up by saying I'm pretty sure that the fan she's talking about, I'm pretty sure that he's a subscriber of my channel. So I'm not trying to attack this person, but I'm going to share Afua's story because I do think that there's something we can learn from this. Yeah, but Milwaukee is really close to it's part of what I think of as a Portland metro area. But you're right. So anyway, here's what she posted this week. Dear friends, I always appreciate you bringing me things to sign, even if you didn't buy them from me. Please stop printing items from my website and expecting me to sign them. That's not supporting me. That's actually stealing. If you'd like a print, I'll take your request and keep the price affordable. Any future theft will be refused and met with, I'm sorry, I can't sign that. Please hear this message with love. And then she updated it. Well, it was with love, but Robert Seth Goodyear believes he has the legal right to steal from me. So instead of love, this message has been poisoned with vitriol. So this is like his response to her, where he says, like, I went to like law school to study the intellectual law. Printing of such material to get an autograph is not considered plagiarism, and goes on to explain what plagiarism is. But to be clear, Afua wasn't saying that it was plagiarism. She was saying stealing. Stealing and plagiarism can sound similar, but stealing is when, you printed off something for free as compared to buying her print. Like, I can understand why she wouldn't want to sign that personally. So specifically, this person had printed off her artwork from her website, asked her to autograph it, and apparently in her comments, she said that they did this before, and she signed one of like the 8 items they brought before. But then this time they brought up a bunch more, and she was like, no, we're done. And I think that she's in the right there, 1,000%. And it's not fun to call out anybody. At the same time, I think every once in a while, an artist has to sort of stick their neck out a little and comment on this, because the margins on being a comic book artist are small. It is not something that you get rich on necessarily. So, she's like, hey, look, if you didn't buy the print from me, but you bought it like, secondhand on eBay or something, or you bought the comic at a comic book store that I wrote, like, that's fine. I'll sign that, because it all ultimately goes to, supporting me. But she didn't want to sign something that was just printed off from her website. I think that that's very fair, personally. I don't know if anybody thinks that Afua or me backing her up on this is weird, but I really think that that's okay. Well, that's true. Yeah, she could go like, yeah, I'll sign it, but I'll charge you the cost of what the print was. He seems nice. It's not just like pirating movies. It'd be like pirating the movie and then asking if the director wanted to sit down and watch your version with you. Anyway, let's see. She can't make more art if you don't buy it from her. Exactly. You have to support who you supposedly like. To ask for an autograph is sort of a step beyond just saying, hey, I like your work. So yeah. Just buy a print from the table. Exactly. Pretty weird. Pretty weird. Don't do that. Anyway, a lot of the comments are fellow artists in comics, and they're all saying like, yeah, that would not be okay with me either. And I just thought I'd share it. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Fantastic, fantastic comic. Very impressive. We're getting a little bit more. So, Patrick Horvath, writer-artist of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, printed at IDW. He's going to put together a horror anthology set in the world with contributors like Tony Fleeks. He's the writer of Feral. His Uncanny Valley artist, Dave Wachter. James Tynion IV. Something is Killing the Children. That's a big name. Che Grayson, obviously, writer right now of Absolute Catwoman. Jared Cullum is currently doing Usagi Yojimbo. Those are just some of the announced names that'll be on this. The anthology is going to be Halloween themed, as you can see from this cover anyway. And it's going to release on October 7th. I'm excited to see other people play in that playground. That's an interesting idea. I like the idea of setting it at Halloween. Serial killer character that could like walk around in a mask and not be noticed. Yeah, that's creepy. There'll be covers by, like you see here, Patrick Horvath. Tony Fleeks is doing one. Peach Momoko is doing one. D.H. Gonzo. If you haven't seen their artwork, it's incredible. But so is Peach's. Peach does really good at horror. So some great collaborators. I'm excited to be surprised by that. Love it. Oh man, last week I had some fun Archie news. This week it's some unfun news, but it's not really going to affect us, folks. But I want to share it anyway. Raven Capital Management is claiming that Archie co-CEO Jonathan Goldwater defaulted back in 2024 on a loan, and that it gives them partial control of the intellectual property. I'll explain. They also claim that they didn't know that the loan they were giving him was in part to finance a potential movie with Universal. You know, when a bank or a capital management company gives you a loan, they're supposed to know everything about it so that they can figure out like the risk factors and, you know, what kind of percentage they want to charge you. It was a $40 million loan. And it was to help Goldwater shore up his 25% ownership of Archie. It also included, though, a personal guarantee. He's not just doing this to the company. He did this with a personal guarantee that put him at risk of losing his personal rights. So that's what they're claiming they're due. Raven is claiming that he defaulted, didn't pay them back in time, and they're claiming licensing rights for Archie merchandise. They could be able to go after Goldwater personally for the money. It's something called a bad boy guarantee, as in if you don't pay back in time, it's not the company that's on the hook, it's you. You have made a personal guarantee. So, yeah, seems like Jonathan Goldwater has got a big case to fight here. That's a lot of money, and I doubt we as readers would see any big changes with whoever's managing some of this stuff, but not good. I think he took that loan out. If we go back to 2024, you know, there'd just been stuff like there'd been Riverdale and the Sabrina Netflix show. In other words, there'd been interest from Hollywood supposedly making an Archie movie, and you know, like he got the loan at like sort of the high point, but it was for like two things, and I think that he thought that the Hollywood part would probably pay him back faster or something like that. I don't know. That's just wild speculation, really. By the way, I never really watched much of Riverdale. I think I watched a few episodes in the first season. I was like, yeah, it's good, but it's not for me. But this girl that plays Veronica, she was the one that played Tila in the He-Man movie, I just realized. That's interesting. Good for her. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. That Texas blood. You guys like blood? This is how I talk about blood. All right. So, the neo-noir crime thriller That Texas Blood is getting a sequel series. It's called, or subtitled maybe, Hell Comes to Allison Ranch. And that's going to begin September 23rd. This is a great crime book. If you like either Westerns or crime books like Criminal, you probably would like That Texas Blood. Anyway, the series is by Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips. Just last week, I think it was, we announced that this is being adapted into an FX television series, but now they're doing a sequel comic book series. Image's press release reads, on March 19th, 2003, Sheriff Joe Bob Coates and Deputy Wilson Hart are called to the Allison Ranch, the largest and richest ranch in the United States. Yeehaw! Where family grievances are blooming into full-blown war. This first issue will be loaded with bonus materials, including behind-the-scenes peeks and other new back matters, such as a new in-universe cartoon by Joe Bob's son, an era-specific political cartoon by Matt Bors of the Nib, and The Toxic Avenger, and a serialized interview with Spencer Ackerman for Everwars, an interview with That Texas Blood show writers, Jim Mickle and E.L. Katz, and basically their approach to TV. So it's going to have a bunch of extra material to it. That's really cool. Well, I think the reason they're calling it a sequel is that it really does tell a complete story. So you could call it either. It would be fair. But they're numbering it number one. They're giving it a subtitle because it's a new story, but with the same characters. You could call it a continuation. That would not be inaccurate. Yeah, and this is a good one. This is a good one. Chris Condon is great for the extra material. I love extra back matter material. Something that I really liked about Savage Dragon at Image Comics. I thought Eric Larson always gave this huge letters page, fan art, gave lots of stuff. Sequentinuation. Sequentinuation. Oh my God, I can't say it, Mike. How dare you? You're going to twist my tongue, and not in a good way. All right. Cowabunga. An official Ninja Turtles Pizzeria had a soft opening this past week down in Santa Monica. It went dark today, but has its official grand opening on the 20th. That is kind of normal for certain businesses like restaurants. They do what's called a soft opening, where they're open, but they're not talking about it. They're making sure everything works right. They're not officially open. And this, if like something goes wrong, they're like, hey, sorry, we're still working on that. Anyway, so it was like a test that they had this week. But this is one of the looks inside, and it opens on the 20th. The restaurant comes from Andy Nguyen, who has done other licensed restaurants like One Piece, Rick and Morty, I think Hello Kitty. It's what he does. And he does well at it. He's had a lot of success. The menu features classic pizzas, but also an assortment of keychains, t-shirts, pins, other items. That's part of what makes it official. Staff wear TMNT-themed clothing. Pizza chefs have aprons that are turtle-themed. And the floor staff is dressed as Foot Clan ninjas. That's fun. That's fun. Anyway, Paramount says that they have plans to open 2 more like this. They want to do one in Monterrey, Mexico, and another in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Uh-oh, Chrissy's becoming evil. Tonight I dine on turtle soup. Who's asking for this? I don't know. Turtles always appeals to young kids, so probably family experience thing. That's what it'll survive on. Like, this is fun. It'll bring people in as a novelty. The only reason it'll survive is if the food is actually good. So they got to have good pizza at an okay price. How is the food board going to take it with a giant rat there? Well, it also has turtles covered in sewage. And remember, turtles' shells bleed occasionally. So that's just something they do. Beautiful. Whoa, that sounds bossa nova. Wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay for a late pizza, dude. Wasn't that the line from the first movie? I hope I got it right. I don't think it's a ghost kitchen. Looking at the pictures, it doesn't look like it's as big as a Chuck E. Cheese. So I don't think so. I think in fact, you know what? I'm sorry. I just read they did take over a former pizzeria that was at this location. So this was an actual pizza place. They've reskinned it, and it's like a new business, but it's built on the bones of an actual pizzeria. Hey, little sister. Nice to see you. There's a Ninja Turtles pizzeria in Santa Monica if you want to go. And I am Ted Theodore Logan. I was trying to do Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles movie, though. And who was it? Cousin Oliver was the voice. Cousin Oliver from the original Brady Bunch was the voice of Michelangelo in those movies. Wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay for a late pizza, dude. I gotta get a new job. That's an interesting one. What's the best pizza chain? If you go to Mod Pizza, it's full of sad dads that are getting their kids for the weekend. Come on, kids, let's get a pizza. What's the best pizza chain? In some ways, this will be the least popular option, but I think that pizza's way overpriced right now, and therefore Little Caesars being priced the least, you get the best value. That's my take. I've never heard of Mellow Mushroom. Never heard of it. Oh, actually, Beowulf kind of might have it here. I'm just talking about value. You're right. Every once in a while at work, they would get us like Costco pizza. It's pretty good. Oh, that's right. Cece's is where I'd make the joke about divorced dads taking their kids for some fun pizza. Yes. Going back in time, growing up in Massachusetts, our local chain in Massachusetts was Papa Gino's. Papa Gino's was damn good pizza. Absolutely. But Costco is good. Costco is good. All right. This is cool. So, one of the creators of Judge Dredd was given a very prestigious award. John Wagner, pretty legendary writer, co-creator of Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog, the graphic novel A History of Violence, which was turned into a live-action film. A lot of people don't know that was based on a comic. He was awarded an MBE, a member of the Order of the British Empire, on the King's birthday honors this year. There are sort of like 5 different things you can sort of be honored by the king in England. The first one would be a knighthood, and then you could be a dame. Those are basically equal, just for like men and women. Then there's things like, I forget the next 3, but one of them is just a member of the order. I think it's like the other 2 are military ranks, like commander and something else. I forget, but it's still a pretty amazing honor. It's still a pretty amazing honor. No, he doesn't quite get to call himself sir. Only knights get to call themselves sir. But you do get to put MBE at the end of your name, and that is a pretty prestigious thing in England. Anyway, he's 76. He was born in the U.S. A lot of people don't always remember that, but Wagner was born in the U.S., but his mother's Scottish, and so at age 12, he moved to Scotland because his parents split up. After leaving school, he took an apprenticeship at a printing firm and then joined the comic publisher DC Thompson as an editorial assistant. That's where he started making connections and inroads, especially with a guy named Pat Mills, who would later start 2000 AD, and he would ask John Wagner to pitch ideas to him. Wagner co-created Judge Dredd in 1977 for 2000 AD. He is definitely part of these writers and artists that brought this huge resurgence to the popularity of British comics in the 70s, which then filtered over, like we started hiring him in the US. But yeah, British comics in the 70s going into the 80s, just amazing talent. Amazing. Obviously guys like Alan Moore and then Grant Morrison and stuff like that. But all the guys that worked for Vertigo back in the day, just amazing. But congrats to John Wagner. Very, very cool. He and Carlos Ezquerra, the artist who co-created Judge Dredd, should have statues at Windsor Castle. That would be very cool. I didn't know that. Tom Baker was appointed a member. That's really cool. I'm always down for more Judge Dredd. It's a really good satire and a really good action and a really good sci-fi. Yes, I just said that, I thought. But anyway, maybe I missed it. That could be interesting. Judge Dredd martial law. That could make for an interesting crossover. I just wanted to share that. I think that's cool when somebody from comics receives sort of a mainstream honor outside of comics. Speaking of British writers, it's an excuse to talk about Alan Moore, who doesn't write comics anymore, but he still gets asked about them every once in a while. Well, Alan Moore was promoting his newest novel, I Hear a New World. He was doing an interview with The Observer. He had some pretty harsh words about Frank Miller. Moore was speaking about his early submissions to Doctor Who Weekly in 2000 AD, and he said, quote, "They were a great way to learn how to tell a story. I don't acknowledge them now. The companies have lawyers and will fight you in court until you are destitute. I don't want to be associated with the comics industry, which is poisonous." Thank you, Steve. Ever watch the 2000 AD documentary? No, I'd love to. Thank you for telling me about that. I would love that. The interviewer then brought up Frank Miller. And then Moore interjected really quickly. He's one of the reasons I'm embarrassed to be connected with the comics industry. Embarrassed? That's harsh. Moore also said, Comics are a wonderful medium, but the industry is corrupt. And I can see how he got there, and I don't completely disagree at all. I really don't. I think that you can navigate it, but it's too bad, like how he was treated, and he didn't like how he was treated. And good for him that he could walk away on his own terms. Not everybody can. The interviewer was definitely trying to, get him to talk about Frank Miller when he brought it up, but Alan Moore just doesn't take the bait, and the interview moves on. It's interesting. The reason they would have brought it up is this. In 1986, Alan Moore seemed to respect Frank Miller. He gave a great pull quote about The Dark Knight Returns. But by 2011, he'd called Miller misogynist, homophobic, fascist. So they definitely had some sort of falling out, or just Moore just decided he didn't agree with Miller's writing. It's too bad. They are very different writers. Very different writers. Xenophobic, yeah, it's probably accurate. Well, I'd say this. Frank Miller in the mid to late 90s started. It wasn't completely obvious, because at first, he was doing street level crime. He was also being a little satirical, and then he started pushing it and getting a little like more serious, but a little more weird, but with stuff like Sin City. And then all of a sudden, 9/11 happened, and he must have been in a really bad place. We know from some interviews that he was drinking quite a lot at that point in time. And he said that, he doesn't like reject what he said then, but the person he is now, he would never say the same things. He went in some weird directions there just after 9/11, but I think he's come back to closer to who he was in the 80s. I really do. Yeah, 9/11 did break him, but I think also the drinking that he's talked about. He said that he was drinking really bad, wasn't talking to any of his family, was just alienating himself from a lot of people. And eventually, like, one editor sort of like reached him and had him like reconnect with his brother and started getting him into rehab. So if you've ever seen like how his physical self looks very different within like, a 2-year period, it was because of bad drinking. Possibly something else, so we don't know. He hasn't talked a lot about it, but what I've said, he's talked about. I love Alan Moore. I think he's just absolutely brilliant. Sometimes I think the toughest thing I could say against Alan Moore is just that he does have the tiniest tinge of hypocrisy, in that he doesn't like it when people work on things that he's created, and yet he obviously has built new stories on stuff that's in the public domain. And legally, you're in the clear, but morally, how different is that? I don't know. But I think he is a brilliant writer. He understands character and plot and structure and how to do multiple things at once. And I go back to stuff like V for Vendetta and Watchmen especially. And it's such layered storytelling. It's telling you so many things with every single panel all at once. And I don't think he ever really did a bad comic. I really don't. I don't think he ever did anything bad. There's a bunch of stuff that you guys are recommending from like his sort of Wildstorm run that I still haven't read, and I do want to. His novels have gotten really strong reviews, which is nice to hear. And you're like, why wouldn't it? Yeah, a good writer is a good writer. Oh, you guys might know, I'm a humongous fan of Berserk, one of my favorite manga. Well, it's been almost a year, believe it or not, since the last chapter of Berserk. But on June 11th this week, writer Koji Mori posted apologizing. He said this: Berserk will be featured in Young Animal, that's an anthology magazine, which goes on sale tomorrow. I'm truly deeply sorry for keeping you waiting for so long. This chapter is an episode that Miura, that was the original creator and writer, his best friend, he's passed away. Anyway, that Miura agonized over for 20 years. And even I, who heard it from him dozens of times, found it incredibly challenging. We somehow managed to reach the finish line after going over the dialogue countless times with Shimada-san, an editor, who was our editor at the time, and has been a longtime mentor to both Miura and me. Once again, everyone at Studio Gaga, starting with Kurosaki-kun, did absolutely outstanding work. I'd be thrilled if you enjoy it. I'm sure I will. And I can understand personally, like, why this would probably be the toughest chapter to write, because it hinges on the story really entering its final act, and beyond that, you're lining up a bunch of different characters that are in a bunch of different places, and to have their stories each sort of wrap up in an organic way so that they cross over at the right time is usually one of the trickiest things to do in big, long-form narrative stories that have multiple characters. It's why George R.R. Martin says he's taking so long with his A Song of Ice and Fire books, Game of Thrones books. He's had a lot of trouble finding ways that, like, everybody's timelines are moving forward and telling their own story, but will still line up and cross over with each other at the right time. Very, very tricky. Very, very tricky writing. But Berserk is it's dark, it's action-packed, it's epic. It's so epic. So epic. I really, really do recommend it. Yeah, Berserk has had a lot of long hiatuses here and there. At the same time, I feel like the story has consistently remained at a very high quality level. So if that's what they need to do, I'll take it. I will take it because I'm very pleased, honestly, with what Studio Gaga, the artists, and Koji Mori have done. I feel like it's a little different than what Kenta Miura did, but it's very close. It feels right. It feels right. It's a big deal. Okay, I've got one more piece of news that's also manga I thought was a little interesting, and that was this top 10 sales numbers, hard numbers that were shared. Oricon Incorporated is a company that actually tracks the sales of manga in Japan. I thought this data was interesting. It shows the sales between May 4th and May 31st. And I was like looking at the monthly sales specifically. I was like, this really isn't that far off from what our monthly books do in America, which I thought was interesting. There's a few caveats that I'm going to speak to. So, well, this doesn't include the healthy sales, obviously, of the monthly anthology magazines. Weekly Shonen Jump sells a few million, maybe only a couple million these days, but it sells a lot weekly. These are for the Tankobon collected volumes. But those are somewhat similar numbers for a monthly that you'd see for something like Absolute Batman, the Ultimate line, Ninja Turtles, you know what I mean? Transformers. I thought that was interesting. Keep in mind, Japan also does have a smaller population than us, so this also shows that more people in Japan are readers of manga than people in America are readers of comics. But it's not like the numbers blow us out of the water with that are so different that we can't find some similarities. As far as what's sold well, we've got Kingdom, which is just starting to come out in English over here, but has been obviously going for a while there. 79 volumes is a lot. The new Jujutsu Kaisen story, Kagurabachi, I know, is popular these days. Blue Box and Sakamoto Days are fairly popular. A One Piece thing. The rest I don't really know too well. Anyway, just thought it was a little interesting to see that the numbers. You're like, okay, the best-selling thing sold 356,559 copies at a $10 price point. But if we added up all of Absolute Batman sales within that same month, that would probably be a little higher, actually. I'm so glad to hear that you read it. I recommend it as strongly as I can to people. Billy Bat is something special. I think it is growing from, I'm seeing articles that imply that it's going. Yes, I am only showing the sales in Japan. So that's another caveat. There are sales for the translated languages. So they sell better than American comics, but they don't outpace them so far that you're like, oh, we're doing everything wrong, I'm going to pivot to doing some reviews at this point because, boy, did we have some interesting comic books come out this week. Let me remove that. I'll take front and center, and we will pivot to some reviews for a little while. This is going to be a blast. Trust me. This is going to be pretty good. Pretty good.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What?
Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
All right. So, I definitely have been enjoying a lot of the Absolute stuff. Not reading it all. Honestly, I feel like I'm reading too many comics and I need to find places where to make cuts. But I love Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman. I absolutely plan on picking up Absolute Martian Manhunter as a collection. I thought Absolute Green Arrow was very, very good. I was definitely going to check out Absolute Catwoman because we've seen this character a little bit in Absolute Batman, not a lot. And let's see what they've done that's different. First of all, look, it's very good artwork. Bengal is a fantastic artist. Most recently has done a few projects with Rick Remender. Sci-fi stuff. This is a different Catwoman in a few regards. First, she is still a thief. But she's very wealthy from being a thief. And she has a plan. She started somewhere, it said like right around age 18, being like, professional Catwoman thief, and plans to retire and get out of this by age 25. And this is starting at her 25th birthday. So she's about ready to leave it all behind. And like any good crime or heist story, something brings her back in. Just wanted to point out that you guys may know, I love what I have termed the DeLuca effect, where you've got multiple instances of a character across a static background. And I think Bengal did a really cool job here. Our goal is to sort of go just left to right, but I really do sort of start and follow a nice little curve here. It's a really nice curve. And it helps us understand a little bit what makes her different. She's sort of got a tail on this that's also a whip. We've sort of seen that before, but it's a little more high tech. She's got a helmet that gives her like readouts and has like an AI to figure things out. Anyway, what's important is that some people are after her, and she also comes. We've got flashbacks, by the way, which help us understand who she was as a kid. That's interesting. But she has a friend, a fellow thief that she hasn't seen in a while, Holly, come and check in on her. And you realize that Holly's in trouble, and this sort of no good friend that's tied up in nonsense is going to bring Selena Kyle like right into the heart of a huge heist that's going to get her in bigger trouble. I don't know if I coined it, but I call it that because Johnny DeLuca draws people like that, and I made an episode, Motion in Comics, where I show other artists who've done something kind of similar. Gil Kane and John Romita Sr. drew Spider-Man, doing stuff like that. So did Steve Ditko. So there are examples, but Johnny DeLuca does it in a certain way, so I call it the DeLuca effect. I think other people do say that now, but I don't know if I popularized it or not. I don't know. When I made the episode, it wasn't like I didn't know of it as a term, but I feel like I have heard artists say that now. So maybe I don't know if I invented it. I really don't, but I might have popularized it. I might have been. I don't know. Doesn't matter. There's a bunch of little changes to this character. I think she's got a big heart, and she's very smart. I think she's very smart, and she has more of a plan in life. You know what I mean? And she has motivation in this. Since we see these flashbacks, we kind of go like, okay, I think I see why this person would feel motivated to do things this way. Yeah, Holly Wright was from was it from Batman Year One? Was that where she first showed up? I think she may have. But Frank Miller also like presented Catwoman as like a former prostitute, which feels so cliche and tropey. I never felt like somebody that could be this confident and this capable and this successful would also work as a prostitute. So I never quite worked that part of it for me. The art is incredible. The art is absolutely incredible in Year One. Yeah, okay, that's what I was remembering. I think I'm remembering right then. Anyway, look, folks, great art, some really incredible moment-to-moment action that feels in the best way possible, manga-esque. You know, Selena having a fight with some sort of ninja person on motorcycles speeding down the street. I recommend it. It's a good introduction to the character. Look, is it superhero stuff? It is. So how much you enjoy superheroes will probably inform to a large degree how much you enjoy this. However, I do think it's doing a couple things a little different, and that is primarily that this is, while a superheroic person, that therefore it takes place in a heightened world, structurally way closer to a heist. You know, like who you're going to need to gather, the information you're going to need to plan to steal something, and then of course it's inevitably going to go wrong, and how do you on the fly make up for those mistakes? She's dangerously close to the movie Catwoman. I don't know about that. The art's great though. The art alone is a really strong reason to read this book. I think Bengal's something special there. Let's see if I can tilt this a little and get a little more light on the page. Trying to think if there's anything else I'm not remembering, but no, I think that those are my big points. I do give it a recommend, a pretty strong recommend, to be honest. Here's one that I enjoy plenty, but I can't give it as strong a recommendation this month. Transformers. You know, it has slowly changed in a lot of ways from what we had when it was Daniel Warren Johnson, or even Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona. Kirkman took over and continued a lot of the characterizations and plot lines in a pretty organic way. And I liked a lot of the things that he's done so far. I think it's interesting seeing RC become RC Magnus, Optimus Prime becoming just Optimus, Thundercracker joining the Autobots. So a lot of that stuff is good. A couple things I didn't love on this. First, it's not like I hate it or anything like that, but Jason Howard's artwork doesn't hit for me quite the same way. It's a little too simple and blocky for me. I would prefer a little more nuance to, like, I do not mind the exaggerated proportions and stuff. I think that actually helps these sort of robot characters feel a little more animated and a little more real, even though that's not realistic. But I'd love to see just a little bit more sort of tech, or a little bit more sort of rules of how metal and machinery operate here and there. I also feel like the backgrounds are sometimes lacking in a way that I would like to see more of. This is a small example, but this is supposed to be Wheeljack working to rebuild Chicago. And I understand that Chicago was wrecked, but I really think that this could have been a little more engaging if we saw one iconic building from Chicago. And it could have been like half built or something, but I think something like that really could have helped. Also, I think that Robert in this didn't do as good a job with the dialogue. I'm going to find... Give me a sec to just flip through this because I want to find a specific complaint that I had where people say the same thing. Two different people say it on consecutive pages. Didn't love that. It does have a great cliffhanger, and it has a great little subplot with Wheeljack that I'll get back to. Where is that thing that I wanted to talk about? Oh, okay, here it is. Okay, so let me show you this. This is a bunch of Autobots on their home planet, okay? And they meet up with this guy, Blue Streak, and he says, "Follow me. You'll never believe who showed up while you were gone." Hint of like what could be. You'll never believe who showed up. Then we go back to this page, and this is on Earth. And we've got Hot Rod saying, "You'll never believe where we've been." I go, that's two characters talking in a very similar way. They're in completely different circumstances. They're completely different characters. They're on different planets. And I really felt like that's an example of the dialogue just feeling too similar. Maybe that's a nitpick. Maybe other people are like, no, that's fine. That's such a casual little phrase. To me, it stood out. I didn't like it. I wanted them to talk. I want like one character to be funnier, one character to be wiser, one character to be more distracted, one character to be a hothead. And I wanted to feel that with the way they talk. So I didn't love that. Anyway, there were plenty of things I did like. I'm not going to give up on the book, but this one wasn't my favorite issue. One thing that was a potential fun tease for the future is that Wheeljack is on this shard of Cybertron out in the middle of the ocean doing sciencey things. And where was it? Oh, yeah. Like he's here with his books and tools, and he's got books on dinosaurs. So I think that hints strongly that he'll be... he's been studying dinosaurs because he came across seeing some fossils of dinosaurs a few issues back. And it's obviously fascinated him, and he's going to want to create the Dinobots. That's a strong hint. Nice cover, by the way, by David Nakayama. Look at how many characters are being shown there, and I think that they all look pretty damn good, pretty heroic. I think one thing I would have also liked to have seen followed up on from Daniel Warren Johnson's run is to see more Shredhead. You know, that's completely original new character. We got a lot of backstory in how he was being created, and he's still there, but we've done very little to have conversations or understand who he is. I would really love to see more of Shredhead. Robert writes because he loves to write. He does love comics. I sincerely believe that. He loves comics. So I don't think he'll ever step away, to be honest. I think he loves doing it. You're right. He's made a lot of money, but he loves doing it. Now, also in the Energon universe, I like this issue quite a bit more than this month's Transformers. When you do an intro issue to a comic, especially one that has a bunch of characters and some mythology to set up, that can be very intimidating. I think that they make some good decisions here by focusing on just one hero for now, the leader, Matt Tracker. No team yet. That's fine. We're going to understand who this guy is. And we've got like a subplot of the bad guys, who's also only 3 people. I've liked Dan Waters' writing in the past. I've enjoyed Pi Par's art in the past. It's fun. It looks good. It's got some energy to it. It's got some detail to it. It's got personality. And it's got a great little way of having Matt Tracker get captured by the government and talk to General Flag, a character that we've met in both G.I. Joe and Transformers, so we know that this is the same world. And they talk about, like, you know, the technology they created, why, who the bad guy is and stuff. And you realize that Matt Tracker's very, very smart, not just with robotics and cybernetics, but also tactically. He's not a soldier, so he's not necessarily a great fighter or anything like that. He's fit, but he's like, he let himself get captured to suss out an infiltrator in the U.S. Army. And that's a really fun scene where, yeah, like, he realizes, like, one of the guys keeping him in the prison here has one of the mask technology things that he and Miles Mayhem invented. And there's a great, like, sort of fight scene with them both shooting at each other with their masks. It's fun. It's very fun. Pi Par did a sort of a steampunk sci-fi book called Petrol Head. And it means they're really good at drawing vehicles, really good at that, as well as, like, people and giving it personality. Yeah, I think it's a great fit. I really do. I think it's a great start to this book. I'll say this. I did love Transformers and G.I. Joe as a kid. Those were two things I loved. Didn't really follow Mask. Wasn't really that into Mask. I had seen a little of it as a kid. But I didn't have tons of toys as a kid. And, like, we completely avoided that. But as far as the comic goes, I think these characters fit very well in this world and have carved out a special story that they can tell. Oh, glad to hear somebody else read Petrol Head. That's really cool. Yeah, I thought that, like, Tacoma, Seattle, Chicago all felt a little more authentic when they were in those first 2 years of Transformers compared to right now. It just feels very generic. And I'd love some more specificity. I think a little specificity goes a long way in establishing shots. Establishing shots where you can recognize something and some real effort has been put in by the artist for, like, you know, a perspective or details for the environment really helps set a tone and a mood. So super, super important. It's something that I think I'm terrible at in some ways, but yeah. No, drawing vehicles requires a lot of patience, because even once you've got, like, the model of this, you know, you're going to have to lay out some perspective grids and maybe even do a little bit of warping on that. Maybe it's like, you know, a 3-point or a 5-point perspective grid. But to have it look consistently like the same vehicle and look cool, it takes a certain set of skills. And Pi Par can draw, you know, very consistent helmet technology as well as vehicle technology. Very good art. Very good art. Oh my God. Yeah. Sean Gordon Murphy is one of my favorites for drawing vehicles. Really cool. Really, really cool. Totally agree. EJ is fantastic. EJ did one of the variant covers for this with his, he's done a bunch of these for the Energon universe. It's like almost a technical specification of the vehicle with the character up front. I wasn't able to be lucky enough to get that. So would have been cool. This one was in a blind bag, although I think that this is the main cover. And then I didn't even really open my other one yet. I peeled it back to see if it was ROM, and it wasn't. But I'll open it now just to see what I got. Oh, that's the back of it. Okay. I don't know who this artist is, I have to admit, but that looks kind of cool. I feel like her legs look just a tiny bit stubby there for some reason. Like this doesn't... It should be longer. I don't know. But I like it. I actually like it quite a bit. I like the 80s colors. I like the layout. I think that that's a pretty face. Yeah. Don't hurt the comic. You know I don't care that much. I just don't care. Issue 5 of Dork is out already. And this book continues to sell really well, which implies that it isn't just speculation. People are genuinely engaging with this story. I get it. By the way, I grabbed this without even thinking about it, but this is the Daniel Warren Johnson variant cover. So that was fun for me. Once I looked at it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I grabbed a cover I really, really like here. Issue 5 wraps up sort of the first arc of Dork. Each issue has been just a standalone adventure, but with the continuing goal of him trying to find a witch that can tell him about his past so that he can know more about this prophecy that he's potentially going to bring about the end of the world, because he's actually a pretty heroic guy. He does the right thing even when it causes chaos. In this issue, for instance, he's taking a bath in some hot springs, and some sort of royalty comes to also bathe there, but then he found out that it's heated by an enslaved dragon, so he went down and freed it. You can see Dork running wild there. And that's technically the right thing to do, but it does lead to the dragon just killing all of the guards and even the royal guy. So Dork gets himself, in trouble and is chased by all these soldiers. He hides with a fortune teller, and this witch has something to reveal to him. You know what I realized reading this is that super expressive, right? Super expressive characters, kind of a nice animated style. You know who I finally realized it reminds me of? It's my buddy Harry Partridge, who does some beautiful, beautiful animation. Does the animation opening for comic Tropes, and does some similar ideas with, the character has intentionality. Like if Dork is curious, he isn't just a raised eyebrow. No, he's leaning forward. He wants to know more. He's wide eyes, like, oh, what can I learn? If somebody's happy, their whole face and their whole body posture changes. Very animated, very, very cool. I love that every pose has real emotion displayed within it. Well, that's going to be a beauty in the eye of the beholder thing. As to how you feel the eyes look, that's just how Piepar draws people. So if that looks psycho to you, then you might not like the book. But anyway, it ends without full closure, but it definitely ends a full story where he's found who he's been questing for over the first 5 issues, and now we're going to pivot and sort of have a confrontation with maybe a new force. It's a great structure, great art. I do recommend Dork strongly. The last one I'll talk about in any ongoing depth, and then I'll just do quick review recommendations, is I got the latest Criminal hardcover by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, and it is a big one. It's a big story. One element of how they've done things differently this time is with actual structure. There are chapters, and each chapter really tells a very different segment of the story. This book specifically is following a guy named Ricky Lawless, who we met early on in Criminal, but haven't seen in quite a while because it follows different protagonists for each story. And Ricky is good at stealing, but he's a hothead and he makes dumb decisions. But he's also kind of a nice guy in a lot of ways. He wants to be a better person, but he was just raised by an absolutely horrible parent, a really bad father. And so he was he grew up in a terrible life. So he makes a bunch of stupid blunders while trying to steal stuff. And what's cool about it is it gets him and his girlfriend Mallory into hot water with kind of a small-time mob boss. And the way he has to keep making a new deal to get out of this problem, and he's leaving behind the old original problem, it just keeps moving. And I kind of get the title, 5 gears in reverse, because he keeps making these wild decisions to save his skin, but he's getting himself in bigger and bigger trouble. It moves so fast. It's great. It's kind of funny. It's a little bit funnier than some stories, but there's some big stakes where, this girl that he legit loves is being held prisoner, and it might be just up to her to escape and get away from that. Meet some great characters in this beyond small-time mob bosses. You meet like high rollers in gambling. You meet like mafia doctors and all sorts of amazing characters. This total scumbag lawyer who screws everything in the story up. He's just the absolute worst. And Ricky's supposed to basically get this guy safely back to the small-time mob boss, and he does a terrible job. Yes, Ricky Lawless is a bigger screw-up than Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems. That is definitely true. I like it. I honestly, a lot of the criminal books will follow somebody that's very, very capable, but maybe doesn't want to be involved in crime, and through a series of circumstances, they sort of were brought into that world. But Ricky, that's where he makes his living, is in the world of crime. But he's a screw-up. He's good at a few things, but he makes bad decisions, and he kind of knows he's making bad decisions, and he's a little lucky. I don't know if I'd quite call him the Fredo, because Fredo was dumb. Fredo from The Godfather was dumb. I don't think Ricky is dumb so much as impulsive. He makes dumb decisions, but he does know better. You know what I'm saying? Because like he does some drugs in this, and he thinks he's doing a hit of cocaine to keep himself alert while he's doing a stakeout, but he actually did like heroin, and it makes him fall asleep and get loopy. It's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. Emilia Clarke is Mallory. Let me think. Well, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I didn't know that, Andy. I'll pull it up on YouTube later and listen to it then. I didn't know that. 5 years in reverse. Maybe I'll get something more out of that then. I will say that everything Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips do also operates at multiple levels. You can blast through a criminal book and you'll get a fast-paced crime story with some of the tropes, but like unexpected twists to the story plot. But if you go back, you realize they subvert certain things. There are references to other things, and there really is a depth to these books. They're some of my absolute favorites. I really should. I completely agree with you, Dave. Being that they're one of my absolute favorite pair of creators, probably my very favorite, I probably do owe them another good deep dive analysis that does them justice. Coward would be cool. I mean, Coward is part of Criminal, but yeah, I would like to see a follow-up to Coward. Well, he just trusted a dumb friend to get him the right thing, and he didn't like check it beforehand. So, super strong recommend, folks. I mean, you have to be into crime titles as compared to superheroes or sci-fi, but it's just perfect. Yeah. This is the 12th standalone book in Criminal. They originally did it as, monthly stories in arcs of like 5 or 6 issues. But Brubaker and Phillips are in this rare company where they can now take almost 6 months at a time and put all that together and sell it at once. Not many people in comics get that privilege. They kind of have to do the monthly thing so that they're bringing in money and payments and stuff. But they're ahead of the ball. And it's nice to get a full, complete story paced the way they want to pace it. Really, really nice. Yeah, Comic Book Dream Team is right. I love that they also have worked together for so long, told a bunch of different kinds of stories, not just criminal. They've done some supernatural, they've done some horror, they've done some spy stuff, but they've done some superhero stuff. But they like working together. And I like that. That makes me very happy. That shows to me the best of what collaboration in comics can be. What else came out this week? Ninja Turtles was pretty darn good. It's basically a standalone story where the turtles get to meet and know their mother and show her around New York. Cute little story. I got this because my buddy Jim Mafood drew this variant cover. Look at that. That's fun. If you don't know, Jim, one of his very first comics that he ever did that got like getting paid was doing Clerks. for Kevin Smith. So it's pretty cool that we're 30 years later or something, just about, and somewhere close to that, one side or the other. And he's doing another thing with Kevin Smith, doing the cover for Jay and Silent Bob in the Marvel Universe. So I primarily got it when I saw this cover. I was like, yeah, I want to get my buddy's cover. I love the negative space in this. I love what he's doing there, you know. A lot of times Jim does layered stuff and really cool big shapes and stuff like that. But I think he was very brave to use this negative space. There's just still some really interesting shapes. We've got like, you know, sort of a triangle bit of an image here intersecting with like a bit of an oval or something. So it's like a piercing of that circle. Very, very satisfying to the eye. Very, very satisfying. But I'll tell you what, this is one of the better things I've seen from Kevin Smith. I thought it was legit funny. I do. It's Jay and Silent Bob in the Marvel Universe, where Kang the Conqueror warns Doctor Doom that one day something that Silent Bob does will lead to the end of humanity. And so Doctor Doom is going after them, and the superheroes are trying to save them. It's not set in any firm continuity. It's all an excuse for tons of puns. And it's funny. Here, I'll just open to a random page and I'll read a little of it, and you tell me if you find the dialogue funny. But I found the dialogue generally pretty funny. Okay. That's too close to the end. I don't want to spoil everything. Okay. They're unveiling a statue at the Quick Stop, and they're building it up, and Jay says, "The Quick Stop guy. His name was Dante, dummy. I remember the moment we came for this idea for the Stone Cut Memorial, or as I like to call it, the Marble Zombie. It was the same night Silent Bob's flower first flourished, and it was so appealing, we called this swinging strain Jay and Silent Bob's Banana Hammock." I don't know. How much you find that funny is going to be up to you. Here's where the Fantastic Four take the Jay and Silent Bob guys over to Manhattan. There's let's see. Human Torch saying, "I'll say this about the Garden State. Their bodegas are huge. Keep your hands and every other appendage inside the vehicle, Jersey girls. Next stop, Manhattan." Manhattan? Oh, man. I don't know. It's funny. Hey, that scary white background. The cover has balloons, though, which I think is very important. Yeah. They're beautiful, Jim. Didn't know you were there. If you folks didn't see it yet, Jim and I are, and our editor, producer guy, Jamie, are very proud of the He-Man episode we put out on this channel with Trash Movie Bonanza. I think it's a pretty interesting one. I definitely talk a little too much and talk over Jim here and there, which drives me nuts later. I don't notice it in the moment because I get so excited, and Jim's just too polite to just go, shut up. But I think both of us have some interesting things to say about the history of canon films, Masters of the Universe, and a bunch of other elements related to it. I got Girl Scouts because of Jim's work on Clerks. He's cool to talk to at cons too. He's the best. Folks, it's sincerely a pretty funny issue. I was really surprised. I've been, every once in a while, a little hit and miss on some of Kevin Smith's movies. But his earliest ones, I legit really liked back in the 90s. And this kind of humor, I was like, yeah, he's firing on all cylinders. If you like that stuff already, you're definitely going to enjoy this. Blood and Thunder by Benito Cereno and E.J. Sue. Fantastic issue where we basically get the story of how Blood Bloodso escapes from the most dangerous prison in the galaxy, which involves a lot of being clever, but a lot of being athletic and tactical. And it's just really fun action. I love some of these moments, like this close quarters uppercut kick to a security officer's face. I like that. Some great art. I had a fun time with this issue. Very, very fun time. I'm excited to see where it goes next with the main character as more of a fugitive as compared to a bounty hunter. resetting things with a new way of doing the story. And of course, I still love G.I. Joe, and the conclusion to Archie and the Army of Darkness was very fun. Very good. But I need to find somewhere to cut back on books. I'm reading too many. Let me doodle away at this, and I'll talk about some other things. Not a Smith. Not a fan of Smith. Okay, that's fair. I think overall I am. Most of the stuff he makes, I really like. Most of it. So just doodling, working a lot with technical pens on this. And then I'll get into some topics. I got topics. Oh, you know what? Got a few different things that I could talk about. Let me think for a sec. Oh, I already put it in the notes, didn't I? I'm trying to think of what order I should chat about stuff in. But hold on, I'm going to just take a quick look at my notes. Drawing, surprise package unboxing. Oh, okay, and then comic tropes. Okay. I'll put that back up. Wait, why did that... What did I just put up here? There we go. Does that look right? I think that looks right. Yes, just before I started the show, I got a package from a buddy of mine. And I thought I'd open it up real quick, because I have no idea what it is. I have a few things that came into the P.O. box that I'll have to open up on a live stream at some point. I've just been so busy with making shows and working, and then the repairs to the house and various health things with family, that I just haven't really had time to focus on anything extra. All right. Let's see. Oh no, it's going to be a box of live scorpions. All right. I'm impressed by Blood and Thunder. It's a legit sci-fi story that came out of nowhere. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. I'm biased, though. I consider all the guys that are working on it my friends. So, take my opinions with a grain of salt, I suppose. But you become friends with people that you respect, right? Whatever this is from a buddy of mine who goes online by the name Vincent. I used to write for his website for years, and we'd have all sorts of daily content. And these days, he's actually been fortunate enough to pivot into, he makes tabletop games. He's so impressive. All right. So, whoa. What the heck? Hold on. That is unique. Christmas stories. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. One of the old Peter Pan records. Look at that. I am pretty sure that this is some Neil Adams art. I bet Continuity Comics was commissioned to do this licensed stuff. How fun is that? We've got Christmas songs like Superman Christmas Story, Light Up the Tree, Mr. President. Batman Christmas Story, Christmas Carol Caper. Flip it over to the other side. Records have two sides. Christmas Carol Caper Conclusion, and Wonder Woman Christmas Story, The Prisoner of Christmas Island. I didn't even know this existed. What is... There's a little more in this package, too. I am lucky to have the friends that I have. I really am. That is unexpected, hilarious, and cool all at the same time. Oh my God, I can't wait to reach out to him to thank him and talk about how he came across this. I have no idea where he would have seen something like this, but there's a little more in here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hold on. Let me make sure I get everything before I reveal it all. All right. In the chat is my buddy Mike Todd, and Mike actually got to see our friend Vincent in person at just this last month at a local convention. Okay. He gave me some funny stickers. We've got Beer Me Right Meow. I do love cats. Milwaukee Bubbler. I'm pronouncing that as though I'm in Boston. Milwaukee Bubbler. From a gachapon, I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's a DeLorean that like a snap together kit that came out of a little gachapon. So it's light, but it's very detailed. You guys know I like gachapon. Oh my God, I'm so lucky. Brew City, Milwaukee. It's like a sticker, but like a thick acrylic sticker. Brew City, Milwaukee. It didn't come out well. All right, and then he sent me his latest role-playing game, Monster Truckers. Long haul into the Worstlands. Here's what's cool about Vincent. This is pretty small to do like, your own role-playing games and tabletop games, but he doesn't cheap out. He hires actual artists to do any spot illustrations, or he'll use publicly available, like licensable images, but he never uses generative AI or anything like that. Hey, what? No. Mike was keeping it quiet. Mike sketched me as a Frankenstein monster. You are very cool, EJ. I think CK did a piece in Monster Truckers too. Probably. So yeah, I'm excited to go through this. Right. So some of this is like stuff that like Paul did because he can do stuff with graphic design. Really nice graphic design for this game. And then there's like little illustrations, and they're all like, credited and paid and stuff to real people. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm so excited. And then he got me 2 old comics that he must have come across in. I've talked a little bit about Aircell before. They were a very small 80s, slightly into the 90s, I want to say, publisher. This looks like a pretty sleazy sword and sorcery one. Yeah, I remember this one. I can't show this online. And then by Malibu, we've got a Pantera comic book. This is on some very cheap paper, but look at what's on the back. An ad for Prime by Norm Brayfogle. And what did I just release? An episode on Norm Brayfogle over on Comic Tropes. I did not intend for like one topic to flow right into the next. Oh, he's got some great games. Wow, that's really thoughtful. That's really thoughtful. A couple comics, a couple funny like stickers, a copy of his game with illustrations by like an actual sketch and by Mike, and a crazy record that I'll have to listen to at some point. I don't have a record player here in my office, so I can't do that right now. But that was fun. That was fun. Aircell and Malibu. And they're not in great copies. They're reader copies, but that's fun. Oh, man. What a great guy. So what am I thinking? I should plug him a little bit. I mean, he's my friend, and he just did something nice for me. The name of his company is Table Cat Games. I don't know how well that... what do you call it? QR code might come out. Oh, I know what I can do. Let me pivot back to having... wait, why is that not showing up? Hold on. There. Okay. I'm trying to get at an angle of showing this QR code. And let me zoom in on it. And maybe you'll check out Table Cat Comics. It's hard to keep it steady. You can also just go to tablecatgames.com. All right. I'll go back to what I was talking about with comic trope stuff. So I hinted at it a little before, but Jim and I put up an episode of Trash Movie Bonanza talking about He-Man. It's a trash movie, but it's kind of fun. One thing I think I wish I had mentioned in it is just how funny it is that He-Man comes to Earth at night and the town is just empty. There are just never any extras around town. It's just so funny how cheap it can come across sometimes. But yeah. I still had a great time doing it. And Jim has an idea already for another episode, so I'm excited to check that out because it's a movie that's new to me. That's always fun. It's a big part of why I like doing this with him. He's got similar tastes, but he introduces me to new stuff. And then I get to talk about it with a friend, which is just an absolute delight. Find yourself a friend that shares some interests and is willing to spend time with you talking about them, and you will be a very happy person. Also, I released a new episode of Comic Tropes, going for weekly when I can. Not 100% sure what I'll be able to jam in this weekend, because it will probably take me about a week and a half to make my next full edited episode, but I'll do something. And but the one that just went up seems to be doing decently well these days. It's about Norm Brayfogle, as I was just saying. Really good artist, and I just think he's kind of not completely forgotten or anything, but not remembered the way he deserves. I think in another world that Norm would have been a very popular artist for a long time. And he just had some bad luck. And he also made some decisions that weren't healthy either for his own health or for his career. So that's too bad, but it's just what it is. And what I can do is talk about what I liked about his Batman art in the 90s, which I liked a lot. And, it's stylized, but stylized in a really cool way too. I like it. I hope you like the episode if you got a chance to see it. Thanks, Mike, and thanks again for the sketch. That's very flattering. Yeah, it is a little too bad. It's too bad what happened with his health. My first Batman issues off the spinners featured his art, and he remains one of my favorite artists. Mine too. I think he's very cool. What else? Anything else? I'm just working already on the next big episode for Comic Tropes, and I'm trying to brainstorm something that's like kind of smaller that I could put out while I'm primarily focused on doing a bigger episode. I don't know if I want to do another story time or if I might like take a look at just a kind of silly Golden or Silver Age story. I don't know yet. I'm still brainstorming on that one. So we'll see. I'll come up with something or other. Oh, what do you call it? I just realized that this coming Saturday is a bit of a comic convention for me. It's nowhere on the scale of, your San Diego Comic-Con, your Heroes Con, your Dragon Con, the big summer conventions or anything like that. MegaCon, it's not that. But here in Washington, just a little south of Seattle, we always have something called SummerCon, Washington SummerCon. And I will be going to that on Saturday. And so hopefully I'll get to see, maybe just a few cool back issues or maybe some cool self-published stuff in Artist Alley. They do have a few name artists that are going to be here, but not a lot. The convention has kind of unfortunately slowly transitioned to being more of a pop culture con. It definitely started as a Comic Con, but it's pivoting more and more to getting, actors and voice actors and stuff. But I think it should still be fun. I think it should still be fun. The last season of Riverdale gets into the 50s comic history. Oh, crazy. Wow. Well, I heard they did some wild things on that show and went in some weird places. Oh my God. I think arguably the sequel's even better than the first series. I think the sequel to Beneath the Trees has not just a tense story with a really dangerous killer, but says some interesting things about the evolving role the internet and big business had, especially in the 90s. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah. Really loved it. I saw a little of it, actually. So last night, when I finished work, a couple of my coworkers nearby were already, watching the game and had invited me. And I wasn't necessarily planning on going, but even though I kind of hate the spectacle of what's going on in our nation's capital, I do like MMA. So I was, and they were cooking food and it's a chance to see friends. So at the last minute, I went and I saw like the last 3 fights of the night. So the co-main events and one of the undercards. And we had a pretty good time. So that was nice. And then we, thanks, Mike. I'm working on it. We cooked some burgers on the grill, some smash burgers. We played some basketball. It was a good night. It was a good night. I'm glad I got to socialize a little bit. It was good for my mental health, which Steve Sorensen was saying. I guess it's Men's Mental Health Month. So I do need to work on that. I'll say that. But yeah, had a good night. It was trashy as hell, the event itself. So trashy, but it was still interesting. The last fight of the night was pretty exciting. That's right. Yeah, Pornsock Pisha Shout is at the event. I'll have to bring a book for him to sign. I really do like The Good Asian, and I really liked Absolute Green Arrow, so that would be cool. Oh yeah, it was so trashy. So ugh. I didn't think it was all making fun of He-Man. I think a lot of it was celebrating it. I can understand where you're coming from, but also I didn't grow up with any reverence to He-Man. It just wasn't something I was into, so I was able to enjoy it, and I thought that it was a good take on things. I had fun at that movie, more than I expected anyway. I didn't go in with big expectations for anything. What else did I see lately? I went with my buddy to see the new Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day. Don't worry, I won't spoil anything about it. I would say that I liked it a good amount, but I would also say that it wasn't exceptional. It's probably, I can't think of it getting into my top 10 Spielberg films, but it is enjoyable. It has interesting characters. It has a good plot. It has good villain. It has great action sequences when it has action sequences. I would just say that the ideas behind it of aliens and stuff like that, that's what it's about. And it felt a little old-fashioned, or like we'd seen all those ideas before, crop circles, aliens that had crashed in Roswell, like that's the kind of stuff that it builds on. And it feels like the kind of stuff they were exploring in the 90s on X-Files. But we're like 30 years past that, so it didn't feel, it felt just a little been there, done that for the behind the scenes mythology they were creating. Sometimes the CGI did look poor, especially considering it was Spielberg. There was a couple things in it that I was like, I thought that the action set pieces, like I was like, yeah, that's probably a digital, but that looked good. But then some of the stuff with like maybe animals or something like that, not as good. Nah, I didn't like that. True, but you know what? Honestly, I'd probably put this on a somewhat similar level to something like War of the Worlds. So how much you enjoyed that maybe is about how much you might enjoy Disclosure Day. I think, you know, his other movies with aliens like Close Encounters and E.T. are far superior. His other movies with like sci-fi, like even Minority Report, I'd call superior. Jurassic Park is certainly way superior. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know who'd have the rights to that right now. I mean, Top still exists in some form, right? I'm excited that some of it's happening here in Seattle. At the same time, I don't know a whole lot about. I don't follow too much about football, so that's one I've got a big blind spot on. Do I believe in aliens? Maybe. I don't believe that intelligent life has visited our planet. I'll say that. But could there be life out there? Absolutely. Could there be intelligent life out there? Quite possibly. Maybe even probably, given the scale of things. Do I believe that they visited us? I don't. I think we'd know, and I don't think a secret like that could be kept. So yeah. If you haven't already, check out Joe Palmer's new comic, Destination Kill, from Oni. 2 issues out. Super fun book with amazing cartooning. Hold on, I'm writing that down, actually, because I trust your opinion quite a bit, Andy. Because I'll be honest, that was not on my radar. That was not. But, okay, I just wrote it down. So thank you. I guess that's all I got to say about that movie because I don't want to spoil it. I'd say it's worth your time, but go in with modest expectations and you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. If you go in expecting top tier Spielberg, no, it's not going to achieve that. It's not. Do you think they'll make an omnibus of the Max? It's mostly up to Sam Keith's wife, I would say. And I'd lean towards yes. I think so. The Tintin movie was so good. It's crazy that like didn't lead right away into more. Just crazy. That was a good movie. I don't think that series will continue. I think if anything, we'll get a fresh reboot, maybe like a live action, maybe animated. I don't know, but I don't think that series is going to continue. It's been so long. No, I didn't see that one. You know, The Mask is something that I think would be due for a new adaptation. I'd love to do an episode talking about how much I like the artwork of Doug Monkey. That was one I was really excited to discover in the early 90s. I've always really enjoyed his artwork. The Mask is interesting, and you know the Jim Carrey movie was very fun and interesting, and it was a cool take on things. But comic accurate, not really. So I would say that now that enough time has passed, it might be a cool time to do another take on that material. Yeah, very, very good. I don't think Jim Carrey really wants to do acting anymore. I'm pretty sure that he's by and large retired. So I don't think a Mask project would lure him back. Here, I'm going to turn off the banner because we're pretty much past everything. Oh, I know what I could show you guys. All right. Or I can talk about it anyway, okay? So, some of you may remember back in December, I rescued a kitten out behind work in December. I did. And cute little tiny gray kitten. Took me over an hour to lure it out, but it was very cold and rainy. It was a little scared, but she kept meowing. So I was like, she wants to be saved. You know, she's hungry. She wants to be saved. And I lured her out with some tuna. I waited for a full hour in the cold until she was finally comfortable enough to come near me. And I took her home and took care of her. And I gave her to a coworker. Let's see. Well, this week I rescued another stray kitten. Again, I gave it to a coworker. And it was a calico, and my coworker has named this one Sadie because she was rescued near a Mercedes-Benz. Let me see if I can show it on this. I don't know if this will show up well. All right, there you go. See that? That's Sadie. She's a cute little calico, very tiny, only a few weeks old. I rescued her, I'm not even joking, within about 2 minutes of trying. Okay? So other coworkers had the night before heard some meows in the woods behind work. And so I came in prepared. I brought my little plastic kitty carrier backpack and some food. And I brought a YouTube playlist of mama cats meowing. And I played it, and she came, not quite running, but she came up and tried the food, and I was able to grab her really quickly. Let me see if I can focus on this one. Come on. There we go. So that's Sadie. Let me see if I can find the pictures of the other cat that I rescued 6 months ago, Ginger. But Ginger's doing very well. She was adopted by one of my coworkers that has 2 other kitties, and all 3 of them get along well. She shows me videos and photos all the time. Little Ginger likes to follow what her slightly older siblings do. She likes to cuddle. She loves to play. She loves her family. So it's just a super happy story for both of these kitties. I would have loved to have kept them, folks, but it just wasn't meant to be. When I rescued Ginger, Chrissy was pretty sick, and it was just a bad time to potentially adopt a cat. Like, that was a lot of responsibility. And now I'm having, our house worked on by contractors, so there's strangers coming in and out. I don't have access to like extra rooms to put her in, but here's Ginger, who I rescued in December. Tell me she's not just the cutest little thing. She's so cute. So anyway, rescued 2 cats behind work, and people at work are of course jokingly calling me the cat whisperer, but I'll take it. I'm very happy that I was able to rescue 2 strays and apparently give them, a nice life with people that were very excited to have a cat. In both cases, these people already had a cat or 2 cats, so I knew that they knew about the responsibilities of, taking them to a vet. They promised, all that they do that stuff, and so it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. You know what? Great question. I haven't seen Munich. There's 2 or 3 Spielberg movies I haven't seen that I kind of want to, but I haven't gotten around to. Munich, The Fabelmans, and Bridge of Spies. Was that? No, Bridge of Spies wasn't one. Cat Max Rescue. That's me. 50 Shades of Stray. That's the best. That's good. That's good. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I was just kind of bragging, but it was also just like, it made me feel good. And I'm so stressed out and depressed these days that doing something like that for a little animal makes me feel very good. I need something happy like that going on, and it made me feel good. was the other one I meant to talk about? Hey, Sean. Saving a cat elicits empathy in your protagonist, essential for creating great heroes. Sean, can I just say one of the things I love that you post on your Instagram are those wireframe running like paper dolls that you create. Like Sean, of course, great illustrator, but he also creates these really great cutouts and puts them on a box with like a crank, and you do it. And like, I think the most recent one I saw was Batman and Robin, like, and it sort of runs like the old 60s Batman in the cartoon. It was great. Oh, I didn't realize it was written by the Coen brothers. Well, I should get around to that. There's not really anything else that I've watched lately. I haven't had, and I haven't played like my Batman video game or anything. I've just been, I really am trying to do everything I can to get my episodes out as quick as possible. So a lot of, anything fun just has to be cut out, and that's okay. Like, that's my decision. And I, because I also get a lot of pleasure out of making my episodes about comic book artists and history. So, but I haven't had time to see a lot else. I haven't finished Spider-Man Noir, although I'd kind of like to at some point. I've only seen like 2 episodes actually. So we'll see. I'll get around to it. What movie comes out this weekend? I'm trying to think. Are we already at Supergirl? Can't remember. The fun thing about the Lego Batman game is it really remixes stuff from a lot of the comics, different cartoons, different TV shows, and different movies. And so yeah, they play music from like Batman '89. Animated series. They play Kiss from a Rose from Batman Forever. They do a lot of fun stuff there. Bane is voiced by Matthew Berry. So, as much as I like Bane to talk like this, I'll also take a great British voice for Bane. Thank you. Appreciate the support, Mike. Thank you so much. I don't get to see the sticker when I highlight it like that. I'm sorry, or share that, but yeah, that's good. They recreated the Batman the Animated Series opening. They also recreated 1989 Batman when Jack Nicholson's Joker breaks into an art gallery with his goons. It was really cool. Yep, Lego, but plays with a lot of the Arkham system, which I thought worked quite well. Oh, Toy Story 5 just came out. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm curious to see that. It's not quite the same level of priority for me as some of the other things. Like, so far, I'll definitely say the best movies I've seen this year are Obsession and Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. Those are the 2 best by far. By far. I'm excited that there's a new Ghost in the Shell, like in the sense that I hope it brings people to the manga and understanding how cool the art of Shiro Masamune is. That's what I'd be excited about. I'm a little sad that Science Saru has to step away from making Dandadan to make Ghost in the Shell. But yeah. Yep, all that's in there. All that's in the Lego game. It's really good. I don't think I've seen In the Gray. That isn't the one with Liam Neeson where he's like, a wolf is the most dangerous thing you'll ever come across. By the time you even think you've seen one, they've already torn you apart. Nirvana with 2 N's at the end. Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. Hilarious. It's about 2 guys, two Canadian guys that are best friends and kind of make music, and they really want to book a show at just a local bar called the Rivoli, and they had a show for 2 seasons, and every episode they've got an absolutely insane idea on how to get the attention and book it instead of just calling and ask to be booked. It always falls flat, and then they made a movie. Oh, you know what? That's also a very good one this year. Yeah, I did see Project Hail Mary, and it was very, very good. Oh, man, prioritize it. It is hilarious. It's some interesting ideas. And it's very poetic. It's very poetic, which is cool because it's also like sexy and action-packed, but it's got some really poetic ideas. What is like the line that Major has about sort of the net? She's like, I'm trying to remember what that sort of iconic line is. It's towards the end of the movie. None of it's coming to me right now. I have to think about it. I want to see I Love Boosters. I like Boots Riley. Yeah, his life story. That was good. I liked Backrooms. I definitely did not love it. It didn't quite rise to anything that like creeped me out enough. But I liked the characters in it. It was an interesting idea. I've only seen the original Ghost in the Shell animated movie in retrospect, and read the manga. There's were we talking earlier on this channel about how like Appleseed is getting some sort of exhibition? I forget. I forget all of a sudden. I always forget that you really should pull your pen lines more and use your arm. I'm doing too much wrist action and pushing. It doesn't give you the same amount of control. I don't know. Maybe at this age, I'll never get it. But I like to think that I've got room to grow as an artist. I like to think it's not too late. I never get tired of drawing. A manga-accurate Akira would be a great anime. Yeah, that would work as like a whole series because it's a big story. That would be nice. But if it's going to happen, Otomo himself is probably going to oversee it. Was there anything else big in the world of comics that happened this week? It's become very warm in this room. Doesn't have good ventilation, and I've been in here for a while, so I'm probably going to wrap it up in a sec. But I had a good week talking to you guys about comics and stuff. I'm excited to finish up my next big comic, Tropes, which is about another artist who worked on Batman that I admire very, very much. Don't think he gets discussed a whole lot anymore, but he's had his era where he did, and really incredible. No, thanks, Beowulf. I didn't know that. I never get enough Tezuka stuff, so that's really cool. Yeah, I agree, EJ. I hope that I'm still trying new things here and there when I draw to become better. I hope I am. Yeah, some guy, some asshole. I need to think of more small things that I can do for the channel so that I can hopefully sort of keep on weekly releases. And I know not everyone can be highly edited. I just don't have enough time to do that on a weekly basis. So I need to think of more things and I doubt I'll have enough interesting stories for you guys for story times every other week. But, I could do some of those. I need to think of something a little like less intense, whether maybe an interview. Although I really like to edit those interviews, like cut out the ums, ahs, tangents that don't go anywhere, add in visual representation of what they're talking about. I like to do that to like make it more engaging. It's really hard to think of what I could do on a faster basis. Tricky. Favorite game adaptations of comic book characters. I know that I enjoyed in the N64 days both Turok especially, but also Shadow Man. I know I played all the way through. What else? Of course, all the Lego games. So like, Lego Marvel, Lego DC, Lego Batman, that stuff. Who else? Oh, of course, Spider-Man. The Spider-Man games are top tier. And the Arkham games are top tier. I don't know if I played the Punisher on PS2. Is that the one that like adapts some of the stuff from Welcome Back, Frank? And you also like meet Nick Fury and stuff, and you can sometimes like torture people for information. That was kind of a fun one, actually. Never played the Deadpool game. I like the Wolverine game that came out around the time of Origins. You could like sort of push a button that would do a pulse, like in the Arkham games, but instead of being detective sense, it was supposedly, Wolverine's enhanced senses. That was a really good action game. That was underrated. Actually, so was some of the Hulk games. Boy, what was that on? I don't even remember anymore. But there were some good Hulk games. Yeah, I played that game. That was good. The morality system. Yeah, I definitely played that one then. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I don't think I could get Alan Moore to do an interview, guys. I would do it in a second. That's not going to happen, though. What else is a good comic book adaptation? There were a lot of bad ones. I grew up with getting the original Nintendo. The original Nintendo, I got real late at the end of its lifespan. And I went out and got a bunch of comic book video games because there weren't like online reviews. So Silver Surfer was pretty good, and I beat that one with a lot of effort. But X-Men was like ridiculously hard. Superman 64 was insanely hard. There were some that were just way too hard and weren't fun at all. The Darkness got 2 games. Never really read those books too much, though. So, yeah, there's some blind spots I have. Batman on Commodore 64. I never had a Commodore 64. That's fun. Good question. But I'm going to wrap it up, folks. I have work tomorrow, so I'm going to quickly prepare some sort of a healthy dinner and then get to work on the episode that I'm talking about for the next comic Tropes. And hopefully that one comes out well. I hope so. Love to rebuild my channel a little bit. I feel like I need to put in some work because the algorithm stuff has changed. I say that word a lot, but it really is real. That it's become trickier to understand and navigate. I think the biggest change to YouTube happened when they started introducing shorts. It's changed a lot of how Google and YouTube knows how to interpret what interests an audience. I don't have a lot of interest in doing short form content, so that becomes very tricky. Anyway, this was a blast, folks. I'm excited to get to work on that comic Tropes. I had a great time talking to everybody. Take care of each other. Keep reading comics. Bye.